Chapter 2, 81. Qianyuan Mother Crystal. Wu Di suppressed the surge of excitement in his heart and reached out to open the remaining 10 boxes one by one. The first 9 boxes were filled with identical gold-quality Qianyuan crystal, with 10 pieces neatly arranged in each box, totaling 90. The dark gold crystals shimmered with a gentle luster under the warm yellow light of the carriage. It wasn't until he opened the last box that the 3 people standing around were stunned. This box didn't have 10 crystals neatly arranged like the others. Instead, a single fist-sized crystal was embedded alone inside the box. It was a brilliant reddish gold color throughout. Wu Di reached out and picked up the crystal. As soon as his fingertips touched the crystal's surface, the system interface instantly popped up with a complete attribute panel. The striking orange text at the top was particularly eye-catching in his vision. Qianyuan Mother Crystal, orange quality. The core source mother crystal of a natural Qianyuan mineral vein, which can replace fuel to power vehicles. Wu Di looked at the simple attribute description on the panel, his hand holding the Qianyuan Mother Crystal trembling slightly. A wave of uncontrollable ecstasy swept through his entire body like a tsunami. With his omni-furnace talent, gold-quality Qianyuan crystal could be fused and promoted to at least red quality, and there was even a significant chance of reaching eternal grade. And this unique orange Qianyuan Mother Crystal, with the help of talent amplification, was guaranteed to become eternal grade. There was even a possibility of it exceeding the eternal grade. The energy shackles that had tightly bound him since he entered this survival world seemed to be completely resolved at this moment. At this moment, all Wu Di could think about was, what level would come after eternal grade? Should he use it for Xiaoxi, or Unit 01? If he gave it to Xiaoxi, would she be able to control the mechas of the Remnant Council if they encountered them? If he gave it to Unit 01, would he be able to sweep across this world? Big Brother Wu Di, why is there only one of these? It looks completely different from the other crystals. What kind of good stuff is this? Lin Yue leaned in, looking at the reddish gold mother crystal in Wu Di's hand, and asked with a face full of curiosity. This is a Qianyuan mother crystal, and it's orange quality. Lin Yu's words pulled Wu Di's thoughts back. He took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing the ecstasy in his heart, carefully placed the mother crystal back into the box, closed the lid, and stored it in his personal space. He then turned to look at Lin Shi and the other 2. Take out a few of the boxes you put in your personal space, and let's have a look. The 3 of them were taken aback for a moment, but immediately realized what he meant. They each took out several standard black metal boxes they had collected from the storage, and flipped open the lids. The cylindrical crystals inside were exactly the same as what they had seen on the screen before, but the attributes displayed on the system panel were only purple quality Qianyuan crystal. The ones in the storage outside are all purple quality ordinary goods, Lin Yue said disappointedly after looking. Lin Shi said, It's a pity. The time was too tight just now, and we couldn't collect all the remaining boxes. It doesn't matter. Wu Di shook his head, his voice calm but filled with unprecedented confidence. Being able to get these is already far beyond expectations. Greed leads to trouble. Withdrawing safely was the most important thing. As his voice fell, only one thought remained in his mind. Go to the domain space immediately and see if these Qianyuan crystal could actually start Unit 01. Thinking of this, he immediately stood up and instructed the 3, Stay here and call me immediately if anything happens. I'm going to the domain space. Big Brother Wu Di, what are you going to the domain space for? Are you going to start that big guy? Lin Yu immediately jumped up and hurriedly asked. However, as soon as she finished speaking, Wu Di's figure had already disappeared from the carriage. The 3 in the carriage looked at each other, seeing understanding and expectation in each other's eyes. Big Brother Wu Di is going to start that big guy, right? Su Wanwan was the first to speak. Definitely, Lin Shi nodded. Sister, does that mean we'll have a whole bunch of robots soon? Lin Yu said with a face full of excitement. It's possible, Xiao Yu. Lin Shi smiled and reached out to rub her hair, her gaze turning once again toward the entrance of the domain space, her heart also filled with unprecedented expectation. "What do you think, Sister Wanwan?" Lin Yu looked at Su Wanwan beside her. "I don't know either, but Big Brother Woody said before that he needed crafting materials. I don't know if we have enough." Su Wanwan said somewhat uncertainly, "If we don't have enough materials, we'll just go rob some more." "Sister Wanwan will just rob whatever we're missing," Lin Yu said excitedly, gesturing with both hands. Looking at Lin Yui's behavior, Lin Shi and Su Wanwan looked at each other and smiled without saying anything. Time passed slowly, minute by minute. After about 5 minutes, Wu Di stepped out of the domain space and reappeared in the carriage. But to the surprise of the three, Wu Di's face didn't show the excitement and joy they had expected. Instead, it was unusually calm, with no trace of emotional fluctuation. "Big Brother Wu Di, how was it? Can that oversized mecha be started?" Lin Yu was the first to rush up, asking with eyes full of expectation. Wu Di looked at her and couldn't help but smile, reaching out to rub her hair while saying calmly, "It will still take some time." He didn't say much about Unit 01, only turning to the others and saying, "Everyone should rest. We've been busy all night and are all tired. There's nothing else to do for now." "Big Brother Wu Di, you go rest. I'll stay here and keep watch." Lin Shi spoke up immediately, her tone firm. "Wanwan and I will take turns keeping watch to ensure nothing goes wrong. We'll call you the moment anything happens." Su Wanwan also nodded gently. "Big Brother Wu Di, get some sleep. We've got things covered here." Even the usually rowdy Lin Yu hurriedly raised her small hand and said seriously, "I can keep watch too. I won't sleep. I'll help the sisters watch together." Wu Di looked at them, nodded, turned back to the driver's seat, and slowly leaned back. After closing his eyes, his mind was still racing, and he felt no sleepiness at all. He hadn't expected the startup requirements for Unit 01 to be so high. According to Unit 01, it would need at least 100 gold-quality Chanyuan crystal to ensure short-term operation. Recalling Xiaoxi's energy consumption, he finally realized that the cost of using eternal-grade items was indeed unimaginable. But this disappointment didn't last long. He quickly thought of that orange-quality Qianyuan Mother Crystal. As long as it was past midnight tonight, his Omni-Furnace talent could be used again. At this moment, Wu Di's mind was entirely occupied by one question: should I use it for Unit 01 or for Xiaoxi? Chapter 282, A Surprise Counterattack. Thinking of this, Wu Di leaned back in the driver's seat, unable to help but curl his lips into a smile, wishing in his heart that today would pass a bit faster. The cabin fell completely silent. Wu Di turned his head to see Lin Yu curled up in the passenger seat, huddling into a ball, then looked back at Lin Shi and Su Wanwan leaning against the sofa. He stopped overthinking and closed his eyes as well. The night slowly faded, and time reached around 5 o'clock the next morning. Shu Kexen walked out of the domain space yawning, muttering, "I'm never coaxing a little girl to sleep again. Whoever wants this job can have it. It's exhausted me." Just as she finished speaking, she looked up and saw Lin Shi and Su Wanwan lying on the sofa, Wu Di in the driver's seat looking at the morning scenery outside the window, and Lin Yu still sound asleep, curled up in the passenger seat. Shu Kexen woke up mostly instantly. Her eyes darted around, and she tiptoed over to the driver's seat. Lowering her voice, she asked Wu Di in a mischievous tone, "Boss, what's the situation? You guys didn't do anything bad behind my back while I was sleeping in the domain space with Xiaoya last night, did you?" She raised an eyebrow and leaned in closer, her voice carrying a hint of playfulness. "Is it that exciting, boss? Looks like they're no match for you even combined. Next time, remember to include me in something like this. I definitely won't hold you back." "Stop it." Wu Di glanced at her helplessly and looked away from the window. Their voices weren't loud, but they still woke up Lin Yu in the passenger seat. Lin Yu rubbed her sleepy eyes and yawned. Turning around, she saw Shu Kexen leaning by the driver's seat. Her eyes lit up instantly, throwing the previous night's fatigue to the back of her mind as she said excitedly, "Sister Zhu, you're awake. We pulled off something big last night. It was so exciting." Xu Kexin was still joking with Wudi, but hearing Lin Yu's words, her eyes widened. She snapped her head toward Wudi, her speech becoming a bit stuttered. "Boss, you guys really did it last night?" She quickly looked back at Lin Yu, her face full of disbelief. You guys last night? Just the three of you?" Seeing Xu Kexin's shocked expression, Lin Yu tilted her head in confusion. "What's wrong, Sister Xu?" Then she slapped her thigh regretfully and said excitedly, "It's such a pity, Sister Xu. If only you had been there last night." Hearing this, Xu Kexin's face turned red halfway, and she could barely speak straight. You guys wouldn't play that big, would you?" But then she saw the pure excitement in Lin Yu's eyes, without a trace of the shyness she had imagined. Looking at Wu Dai's helpless expression next to her, she instantly realized she had misinterpreted things. However, she still deliberately leaned into Lin Yu's ear and whispered in a bashful tone of someone who had seen it all. "Isn't this a bit inappropriate? With so many of us, wouldn't that be too easy for the boss?" She paused, winked, and egged Lin Yu on in a low voice. How about you join me tonight? I'll teach you a few moves to make sure the boss is so mesmerized he won't know which way is north. Let me tell you, this kind of thing is all about." "Sister Xu, what are you talking about?" Lin Yu's face turned completely red at these words, even the tips of her ears burning hot. She quickly reached out to cover Xu Kexin's mouth and said in a flustered and anxious tone, "We went to the inner city last night to rob the energy warehouse. What on earth are you thinking?" With her mouth covered, Xu Kexin made a few muffled sounds. Once Lin Yue let go, she took a sharp breath and looked at Wu Di in shock. "Holy crap! Boss? You guys sneaked into the inner city last night? And robbed their energy warehouse?" Just then, Lin Shi and Su Wanwan in the back were also woken up by their voices. Seeing Xu Kexin's shocked face, Lin Shi couldn't help but shake her head with a smile, getting up and walking straight to the kitchen area of the cabin. Su Wanwan also got up, rolled up her sleeves, and walked into the kitchen. "Sixi, I'll help you." Lin Yu, meanwhile, pulled Xu Kexin aside and chirped away, recounting the entire process of sneaking into the inner city, storming the energy warehouse, Wu Di clearing the area in a minute, snatching a massive amount of Qianyuan crystal, and finally successfully retreating before the guardians could surround them. She added plenty of color to the story, and Xu Kexin's eyes grew brighter and brighter as she listened. By the time Lin Shi and Su Wanwan brought the hot breakfast to the table, Xu Kexin had finally heard the whole story. She gripped the back of the driver's seat and complained to Wu Di with a face full of resentment. "Boss, you're so unfair. Why didn't you call me for something so exciting last night? If I had been there, we could have emptied that storage. What a waste." "That's right, Big Brother Wu Di." Lin Yue also nodded immediately, saying with regret, "If we had called Sister Xu last night and the four of us collected them together, maybe we really could have emptied all the remaining crates." Listening to their coordinated complaints, Wu Di smiled helplessly. In truth, he didn't feel much regret. Although those purple-quality ordinary Qianyuan crystal were numerous, what was truly important to him were the 100 gold-quality Qianyuan crystal in the secret room, and that unique orange-quality Qianyuan mother crystal. As long as he had those two things, those ordinary purple crystals were not worth mentioning. However, it would take some time to truly transform these top-tier energy sources into the team's hard strength. Wu Dai leaned back in the driver's seat, having a strong premonition that once he passed this stage, his strength would definitely undergo an earth-shattering qualitative change. "Boss, did you hear what we were saying?" Xu Kexin waved her hand in front of his eyes, looking indignant. "I'm telling you, next time there's a good thing like this, you must call me or I'll throw a fit. Let's eat." Wu Dai reached out to brush her hand aside and nodded with a smile. "I'll definitely call you next time and let you carry as much as you want." The group sat around the coffee table and chatted while eating breakfast. "Boss, can we get out of the outer city today? You guys robbed their energy warehouse last night. Won't they be hunting us down across the whole city today?" Xu Kexin said while slurping her noodles. "Definitely." Lin Shi nodded. Last night, they had everything surrounded in less than 3 minutes. Boss, how about we hit them with a surprise counterattack? They definitely won't expect it, Shu Kexen said excitedly, putting down her bowl and chopsticks. Hearing Shu Kexen's words, Lin Yu immediately said excitedly, Sister Zhu, what you said sounds really good. That's how it's always played out on TV. Wu Di looked at the two of them and said helplessly, Have you two forgotten something? Chapter 283, The Player's Doomsday. Wu Di looked at the two excited girls and shook his head helplessly, his tone a mix of amusement and exasperation. Shu Kexen was stunned for a moment, then slapped her forehead and shouted in realization, Oh, how could I forget? Xiaoya is still sleeping in the domain space. I was so busy listening to you guys talk about last night's excitement. After saying that, she hurriedly got up and stepped quickly into the entrance of the domain space. Before long, she walked out leading a sleepy-eyed Xiaoya. The little girl's hair was a bit messy from sleep, her small hand tightly clutching the corner of Shu Kexen's clothes, her face still filled with the daze of someone who hadn't fully woken up. Xiaoya looked up and saw everyone in the carriage, as well as the warm breakfast on the coffee table. She timidly whispered a greeting to them. Although she was still a bit restrained and her shoulders were slightly hunched, she was clearly not as tense as a drawn bow, like when she was first rescued yesterday, not even daring to make eye contact. After helping Xiaoya tidy up, Shu Kexen led her to sit around the coffee table. Xiaoya, come to sister. Lin Yue immediately pulled Xiaoya to her side, looking at her with a grin. Here, Xiaoya, have something to eat. Lin Shi also smiled as she picked up a bowl of noodles and placed it in front of her. The little girl held the warm bowl, and the warmth from her fingertips made her tense body slowly relax. She whispered a thank you to Lin Shi and began to eat quietly. Seeing Xiaoya eating quietly, the originally somewhat lively atmosphere in the carriage softened a bit. With nothing to do, Wu Dai leaned back in the driver's seat and opened the communication channel, wanting to see the current situation of the player group. But as soon as the channel opened, dense messages refreshed frantically like a tide. His gaze first fell on the online count in the upper right corner of the channel, and his pupils shrank slightly. Yesterday, the number was 79,621. After just one night, this number had dropped to 75,118. Overnight, more than 4,000 players had perished on this wasteland. Damn it. The natives are crazy. They chased us all night. There were 8 of us in our team, and I'm the only one left. I finally realized that this isn't a survival game at all. It's throwing us into someone else's territory to be hunted like prey. The natives are organized and disciplined, and they have heavy firepower. How are we supposed to fight them? How did you guys meet up? I haven't encountered a single player, and I don't even have a map. Can you guys stop killing the natives indiscriminately? Damn it. How are people like us supposed to survive? I just want to find some resources and get through this stage peacefully. A bunch of cowards. So what if a few people died? Can't you guys group up? Our team took down a lone squad last night and looted 2 purple rifles. If you want to live, group up. Don't get close to the natives. Just use firepower suppression from a distance. They're easy to kill. It's just that they don't have anything good except weapons. There's a huge black mountains on the plains. Anyone who wants to team up, come here. There are already over 100 teams. Damn, is it really necessary? The natives don't even need to rest. They're hunting us all through the night? This can't go on. Without supply crates, relying solely on looting, killing 1 or 2 the natives doesn't even cover the costs. This is only the 2nd day. What about later? Haven't you all thought about it? Finally, someone noticed. We can endure with food and water, but without ammunition supplies, we're finished. Relying on looting that little bit is useless. Shit, there are semi-mechanical humans here. Talk about an eye-opener. I don't know if they're monsters. Has anyone encountered them? I don't dare go in alone. They look creepy as hell. Anyone near the Black Mountains, come and gather. The more people, the safer. We can pull off something big. I want to go there too, but I don't see any Black Mountains. It's all plains as far as the eye can see. Can't this game provide a map? The natives are all grouped up, so what are we supposed to do? I'll tell you something, believe it or not. I was caught by the Scavenger Alliance last night, but they didn't kill me. As soon as this message appeared, dozens of replies followed instantly, and the frantically refreshing channel even paused for a brief moment. Wu Di's gaze also instantly froze on this post, and he continued scrolling down. He soon saw a new message, the content of which made his brow furrow tightly. After they caught me, they didn't intend to kill me at all. Instead, they locked me in a room and interrogated me all night, asking where we outsider came from, how many of us there were in total, what our special abilities were, and what our ultimate goal was in entering this continent. Wu Di looked at this message, a hint of solemnity flashing in his eyes. He had originally thought that the Scavenger Alliance's full-scale encirclement of players was simply to repel invaders, that the players' wanton looting had intensified the conflict, and that the natives were just reacting. But now it seemed things were far from that simple. They weren't just surrounding and suppressing players with force, they were also systematically investigating the players' origins, abilities, numbers, and backgrounds in an organized and planned manner. This group of people was much more clear-headed and dangerous than any player had imagined. Wu Di closed the communication channel and turned his gaze to the real-time footage of the outer city gate on the center console screen. The heavy metal gate, over 10 meters high, remained tightly shut. It wasn't dawn yet, and the area around the city walls was lit as bright as day. The guards on the wall were still as alert as they had been yesterday, with no relaxation in their vigilance. In his mind, he recalled Zhu Kexin's suggestion of a surprise attack, and those messages in the player channel, silently weighing his next plan. Just then he looked at Xiaoya, who was eating noodles, and asked in a softened tone, "Xiaoya, let me ask you something. What time does this outer city gate open and close every day?" Hearing this, Xiaoya immediately put down her chopsticks, looked up, and answered seriously, "Big brother, the outer city gate closes around 8 p.m. and opens around 8 a.m. every day. Also, there's the inner city gate. I heard from people in town that the inner city gate never closes, it's always open." Hearing Xiaoya's words, Wu Di finally breathed a sigh of relief. As long as there was a fixed opening time for the gate, it was fine. They wouldn't have to force their way through the gate filled with heavy firepower, or test the power of the cannons on the walls that were thicker than a person's waist. They just had to wait until the gate opened at 8 a.m., and they could use the holographic phantom camouflage to quietly slip out of Wangnian town. But before he could fully relax, Xiaoxi's voice suddenly rang out in the carriage. Chapter 284. Hidden Dangers. "Commander, within radar range, 8 armed squads have been detected. Each squad consists of 12 members, distributed in a grid pattern. They are conducting a dragnet search of the western area of the outer city, and are expected to reach our current location in 45 minutes. Real-time footage has been synchronized to the center console screen." As soon as these words were spoken, the originally soft atmosphere in the RV cabin instantly tightened. The several people eating immediately put down their utensils and crowded toward the driver's cab in unison, looking at the center console screen. On the screen, the 8 Guardian squads were in a standard fan-shaped search formation, advancing steadily step by step along the streets and alleys. Not a single abandoned building or branching alleyway was overlooked. They were the same elite armed forces they had encountered at the inner city energy warehouse last night. "Big brother Wu Di, these people are definitely coming for us," Su Wanwan said immediately. "Wanwan, there's nothing to worry about. They can't even see us, so how are they going to find us?" Zhu Kexin, on the other hand, looked relaxed. She leaned back on the sofa and spoke with total indifference. "Exactly. Since they can't see us anyway, there's no need to be afraid at all." Lin Yu also nodded immediately, echoing the sentiment with a look of certainty. "It's hard to say." Lin Shi shook her head, her tone carrying a hint of gravity. "What if they have detection methods we don't know about? We are still inside the city." While the others were talking, Xiaoya's gaze fell upon the Guardians members on the screen, who were dressed in black uniforms. Her body began to tremble uncontrollably, and she subconsciously shrank behind Lin Yu. It was clear she had deep psychological trauma regarding these people. Lin Yu immediately noticed her abnormality, and quickly reached out to hug her. "Xiaoya, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. They won't find us. We can turn invisible, you know. Even if they walk right past us, they won't be able to discover us." "That's right, don't be afraid." Lin Shi also walked over immediately, squatted down, and gave the young girl a gentle smile, comforting her softly. "As long as we stay here quietly and don't reveal our position, we can drive straight out as soon as the city gates open at 8 a.m. We won't ever have to see these people again. There's no need to worry." Wu Di also turned around and reached out to gently pat Xiaoya's head. He deliberately slowed his tone, his voice carrying a reassuring power. "Don't be afraid. With us here, no one can harm you." Only then did the young girl's trembling body slowly calm down, though she buried her face in Lin Yu's embrace, not daring to look at the images on the screen again. Seeing this, Wu Di turned back and looked at the center console screen again. "Xiao Shi, pay attention to adjusting our position. Avoid their search routes." "Understood, Commander." Wu Di's gaze swept over the search squad still advancing steadily on the screen, then glanced at the time in the upper right corner. It was only 6 a.m. There were still 2 full hours until the city gates opened. Although he knew very well from last night's infiltration that these Guardians members couldn't find any trace of the RV thanks to the holographic phantom camouflage and the DXF all-protection composite coating, the vigilance in his heart didn't diminish in the slightest. Camouflage was, after all, only deception at the optical and electromagnetic levels. The RV was a tangible physical entity. At the very least, the matrix stabilization tracks would certainly leave faint marks on the ground after passing. It was late last night and the light was dim, so it was normal that no one noticed. But now, it was already dawn. He didn't think the people of the Scavenger Alliance were all fools. It was only a matter of time before they were discovered. Wu Di's gaze shifted back to the center console screen, specifically toward a thick cannon barrel glinting coldly in the morning light on the distant city wall, a flash of wariness appearing in his eyes. He didn't want to test just how powerful that thing was right at the final hurdle. Then, the contents from the communication channel earlier echoed in his mind. A single thought kept circling, and he couldn't figure it out no matter how hard he tried. At this stage, communication between players was difficult. There were no maps and no channels for resource replenishment. Meanwhile, though the natives were not only highly organized and well-equipped, but also harbored extreme hostility toward players, even starting to systematically investigate their backgrounds. Under these circumstances, ordinary players had no survival advantage at all. Only 24 hours had passed, and over 20,000 out of the 100,000 players were already dead, a loss rate exceeding 1/5. Especially since the Scavenger Alliance would surely increase the intensity of their hunt for players next. What would the remaining player population do for the next 6 days? It wasn't that he was worried about the lives of players he didn't know. He just knew very well that these players scattered across the map were his most important source of information right now. If the players all died out, they would lose their most vital intel source. The more Wu Di thought about it, the more he felt that the system's rule settings for this stage were riddled with irrationality. Could this be the test given by the system, or will there be other changes later? He whispered subconsciously to himself. "Big brother Wu Di, what did you say?" Lin Yu heard his murmur and looked up, asking with a face full of curiosity. Wu Di snapped out of it, looked at Xiaoya, who was still sitting on the sofa looking somewhat timid, and after a moment's thought, ultimately shook his head without saying much. He raised his hand to open the team channel and quickly sent a message. Shu Kexin originally wanted to stand up when she saw the notification from the team channel, but at the thought of the ordeal of coaxing Xiaoya to sleep last night, she immediately sat back down and winked at Lin Shi. Lin Shi naturally saw the message in the team channel immediately. She nodded understandingly and stood up, saying to the others, Xiaoya, come with me. Let's go into the domain space to tidy things up and see if there are any useful supplies. We'll leave this place to Big Brother Wu Di and the others." "Huh? Sister, I want to stay here." Lin Yu blinked with a confused expression, not understanding why they suddenly had to go to the domain space. "Let's go, Xiaoya. We have things to do." Su Wanwan stood up immediately and pulled Lin Yue's arm with a smile. pulling her up without taking no for an answer. Lin Shi, meanwhile, took Xiaoya's small hand. "Xiaoya, come on, sister will get you something delicious." The little girl nodded gently and obediently stood up with Lin Shi. Without saying anything more, the several of them stepped into the entrance of the domain space one after another, their figures instantly vanishing from the cabin. In an instant, only Wu Di and Shu Kexin were left. Watching their figures disappear, Shu Kexin let out a long sigh of relief and slumped onto the nearby sofa, looking like a survivor of a disaster. Seeing her like this, Wu Di couldn't help but tease her with a smile. "What? I thought you weren't afraid of anything?" "Boss, you really don't know. Taking care of a little girl is honestly more exhausting than fighting." Shu Kexin waved her hand with a look of deep grievance and complained, "Especially Xiaoya, she's too timid. The slightest noise can scare her. To coax her to sleep last night, I told her nearly 10 stories over and over until my lips were practically worn thin before she finally fell asleep. Let Shishi and the others handle things like gathering information. I really can't do it anymore." Chapter 285. Old Acquaintances. Wu Di couldn't help but smile upon hearing this. Just as he was about to tease her, Xiao Shi's voice suddenly rang out in the cabin again. "Commander, a large convoy has been detected approaching the outer city gate. The outer city gate has opened." Hearing this, Wu Di and Shu Kexin immediately glanced at each other, both seeing deep surprise in the other's eyes. Without a moment's hesitation, they both leaned toward the center console screen. On the screen, the outer city gate was wide open. Over a dozen fully armed off-road vehicles led the way, followed by dozens of transport trucks covered in heavy armor. Several armored vehicles mounted with heavy machine guns brought up the rear, followed by an endless stream of modified vehicles, all surging toward the gate in a grand procession. Holy crap, such a big operation. Shu Kexin's eyes widened, and she couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice, "Boss, why are so many of them leaving the city? Could it be that the energy warehouse was robbed, and they're mobilizing everyone to turn the entire wasteland upside down looking for us?" "Looking for us is likely only part of it." Wu Di's gaze quickly swept over the scale of the convoy as he analyzed calmly. A convoy this size is likely conducting a grid-based mop-up of players in the wasteland, while searching for our tracks along the way. Then they're handing us an opportunity. "The gate is open. We can take this chance to sneak out. I'm bored to death in here." Shu Kexin reacted instantly. Wu Di thought so too. He had originally planned to wait until the gate opened normally at 8 a.m., but now the opportunity was right in front of them. With such a massive convoy leaving the city, it was the perfect time to use them as cover and slip out quietly. Almost instantly, Wu Di made a decision. "Xiao Shi, follow at the very back of the convoy. We're sneaking out." "Understood, Commander." The RV silently cut into the rear of the convoy, following their pace as it slowly drove toward the city gate. The cabin fell silent instantly. Shu Kexin held her breath, staring intently at the footage of the gate on the screen. Wu Di also leaned against the driver's seat, his eyes fixed on the screen. Even with absolute confidence in the RV's camouflage, he couldn't help but feel a bit nervous facing an unknown situation. Seeing the entire convoy about to clear the gate, the RV had already reached the middle of the gateway. Just a few more meters and they would be completely out of Wangyan town. A guard by the gate suddenly frowned and looked down at the ground. He noticed that on the ground where the RV's matrix stabilization tracks had just rolled over, there were faint track marks that almost blended in with the dust. The guard immediately raised his rifle and was about to crouch down for a closer inspection. Shu Kexin's heart leaped into her throat. Wu Di's gaze also sharpened instantly. If they were exposed here, he really wasn't sure if they could escape in one piece. But at that critical moment, someone suddenly rushed out and shouted at the guard, "What are you dawdling for? The convoy is almost gone. Close the gate quickly. If you let an outsider escape, can you take responsibility for it?" Hearing this, the guard glanced at the ground in confusion, then frowned and quickly retreated to the side of the gate without asking more. Accompanied by the heavy sound of machinery, the thick metal city gate slowly closed behind them the moment the RV cleared it. It wasn't until the walls of Wangnan town were completely left behind, and the RV had followed the convoy for a full kilometer. well out of the guard's alert range, that the tense atmosphere in the cabin finally relaxed. Shu Kexen let out a long sigh of relief. "My God, that scared me to death. I thought we were going to be exposed. Boss, that was way too intense." "It was a close call indeed." Wu Di also breathed a sigh of relief, leaning back in the driver's seat as his tense nerves finally relaxed. If they had been even half a second later, they might have been exposed. Fortunately, they made it through without incident and successfully slipped out of Wangyan town. He looked up at the center console screen again, his brow furrowing slightly. On the screen, the massive convoy that had just left Wangyan town did not maintain its formation. Instead, it quickly split up across the wasteland into small squads of 2 to 5 vehicles. Like a spreading net, they dispersed in all directions across the wasteland, clearly intending to conduct a comprehensive dragnet search of the entire area surrounding Wangyan town. Man, they're really going to sift through the whole wasteland. Shu Kexen clicked her tongue as she watched the squads disperse on the screen, then added excitedly, "Boss, what do we do now? Should we just start taking them out? There's no pressure now." Wu Di didn't answer immediately, his mind racing as he weighed the next part of his plan. Hiding would be safe, but they would lose all control over the situation. Going deeper into the wasteland without a map or intelligence meant unknown paths and equally high risks. Just then, a name flashed through his mind, and his eyes lit up. He immediately asked the center console screen, "Xiaoxi, did you detect Ironstone's life signal in the convoy that just left the city?" "Understood, Commander. Comparing life signal signatures. Comparison complete. Confirmed detection of Ironstone's life signal. He is in a 3-vehicle squad heading southwest, currently 985 meters away and moving further away. They are about to leave radar range." Wu Di didn't hesitate and ordered in a low voice, "Xiaoxi, turn around immediately, catch up with Ironstone's squad. Deactivate stealth mode and adjust the RV's appearance to match their vehicle style." "Understood, Commander. Stealth mode deactivated. RV appearance is being synchronized to match the Scavenger Alliance vehicle style. Route recalculated, pursuing at full speed." The RV's appearance changed rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, it looked no different from the vehicles in the squad ahead. In less than a minute, the RV caught up with the 3 vehicles. When the distance closed to less than 200 meters, the 3 vehicles ahead suddenly slowed down and then gradually decelerated, their positions shifting slightly. They had clearly discovered their presence. "Boss, they must have seen us." Shu Kexen immediately sat up straight. Wu Di nodded slightly. "Yes, Xiaoxi, pull ahead and block those 3 vehicles." "Understood, Commander." Accelerating to full speed. The RV accelerated instantly, rushing in front of them in the blink of an eye and coming to a steady stop, completely blocking the path of the 3 vehicles. Wu Di immediately stood up, preparing to get out. Seeing this, Shu Kexen grabbed her cloud-piercing bow and said excitedly, "Boss, I'll go with you. Just in case. I'll protect you." Chapter 286. Conflict. Wu Di nodded and was the first to step out of the vehicle. Shu Kexen followed closely, her steps steady as she maintained a position half a step behind him, ready to strike at a moment's notice. Almost at the same time they stepped out, the doors of the 3 vehicles opposite them were pulled open. Ironstone was the first to jump down from the lead off-road vehicle. When he saw Wu Di blocking their path, his pupils constricted sharply, and a flash of shock and wariness crossed his face. His 3 teammates followed him out, and the 6 scavengers from the other 2 vehicles also appeared. All 10 men were holding standard-issue rifles, their barrels pointed squarely at Wu Di and Shu Kexen, fingers resting on the triggers. The atmosphere instantly became tense and volatile. "Everyone, put your guns down." Ironstone reacted instantly, turning to bark orders at the men behind him. At the same time, he stepped forward quickly, spreading his arms to stand between the 2 parties, a layer of cold sweat breaking out on his forehead. He knew this man's strength all too well. Yesterday, at the abandoned factory, Wu Di had dealt with them effortlessly. His power was unfathomable. Furthermore, the inner city of Wangyan town had suddenly been thrown into chaos last night, with the entire town placed under total lockdown overnight, and the inner city guardians deployed in full. He didn't need much logic to guess that this was most likely connected to the Wudai standing before him. "Brother Sha? What are you doing? These two are of unknown origin, and they dare to block our path." "Exactly. Look at their clothes. They aren't from our town at all. They might very well be the outsiders the higher-ups are looking for." Shukeksan did not speak at this moment, but her gaze was solemn as she watched the group, her grip tight on the cloud-piercing bow. Wudi ignored the shouting scavengers, his gaze falling on Ironstone. "A word in private." Having said that, he turned and walked to the side, completely disregarding the rifle barrels pointed at his back. Ironstone's heart tightened. He quickly said to the men behind him, "Don't move, put your guns away. I'm going to have a chat first." He then hurried to keep up with Wudi's pace, his heart pounding, completely unable to fathom Wudi's purpose for stopping him. After walking for a bit, Wudi stopped, turned around, and asked bluntly, "What is your specific mission for leaving the town this time?" "Mr. Wu, our main mission this time is to capture outsiders. Orders have come down from above that we can kill outsiders on sight. For every live outsider brought back, we can go to the Alliance to exchange them for 10 pounds of grain, 200 rounds of ammunition, and quite a lot of medicine. Even if we bring back a corpse, we can still get half the supplies." He paused and added, "It's not just us. This is the mission for every squad that left the town today. No one knows what happened in the inner city last night, but the Alliance high-ups have issued a death order to scour the entire wasteland and purge all outsiders." Wudi's eyebrows twitched slightly. It was exactly as he had expected. The Scavenger Alliance had turned the hunt for players into a bounty with a fixed price. With so many scattered squads, how do you stay in contact with each other? Hearing this, a look of hesitation appeared on Ironstone's face, and he subconsciously glanced toward the convoy. Wudi swept a faint look over him, his eyes devoid of emotion, yet it made Ironstone shudder instantly. That bit of hesitation vanished immediately, and he hurriedly spoke. "We have an internal communication channel for the Scavenger Alliance. Every squad has a radio that can receive commands from headquarters and communicate with nearby squads. Once an outsider is discovered, nearby squads can rush to provide support within 10 minutes. I want a complete map of the area around Wangnan town. Do you have one?" Wudi spoke again. This was one of his core reasons for stopping Ironstone. Ironstone immediately shook his head with a bitter face, his tone full of helplessness. "Mr. Wu, it's not that I won't give it to you. It's that I really don't have one. Only the Inner City Guardians has such detailed maps. People like us rely entirely on our familiarity with the terrain when we go out, and our range of activity doesn't exceed 200 kilometers around the town. Whenever we need to go further, it's always like today, where the Inner City Guardians organizes and leads the way, and we just follow along." Wudi's brow furrowed slightly. While the two were talking, the situation back at the convoy had completely boiled over. The 6 scavengers from the other 2 squads, seeing Wudi and Ironstone whispering to the side, and looking at Wudi and Shukeksan's clean, tidy clothes, which were completely out of place compared to their own dust-covered, ragged outfits, grew increasingly suspicious. "What is Brother Shi doing? What is he whispering about with that guy? I think those 2 are definitely outsiders. Look at the bow that woman is holding. That's definitely not something from around here. Damn it, Brother Shi wouldn't be colluding with outsiders, would he? The Alliance has regulations. Colluding with outsiders means being shot on the spot." The group grew more and more agitated, raising their rifles once again, their voices getting louder. Ironstone heard the shouting from below, and his expression changed instantly. He quickly offered a compensatory smile to Wudi. "Mr. Wu, please don't take it personally. I'll go make them shut up right now." With that, he ran quickly down the slope, shouting loudly as he ran, "Don't do anything reckless. Put your guns down." "Brother Shi, who exactly are these 2? Are they outsiders?" shouted a man with a thick beard showing no intention of lowering his gun. "The Alliance has ordered that outsiders be killed without mercy. If you dare to protect them, you're making an enemy of the entire Scavenger Alliance." "They aren't outsiders. They are friends, I know." Ironstone was sweating profusely from anxiety, desperately trying to explain. "Put your guns down. This isn't something you can get involved in. Put the guns away now." "Friends? I think they're outsiders. Brother Shi, you haven't been bought off by them, have you? I think so too. Just open fire and take them out. We can still trade them for supplies if we catch them. The men wouldn't listen to Ironstone's explanation at all. Instead, they argued more fiercely, their gazes toward Wudi and Zhu Kexin becoming increasingly hostile. The more Ironstone explained, the more they felt he was acting out of a guilty conscience. The shouting grew louder, and some had even tightened their fingers on their triggers. Seeing this, Zhu Kexin instantly drew her cloud-piercing bow halfway, the arrowhead pointing at the loudest shouting bearded man, her gaze turning cold as she prepared to act. Damn it! They really are outsiders. Fire! But the gunfire did not ring out as expected. A split second before he pulled the trigger, Wudi's figure suddenly moved. He pushed off with his feet, his body lunging forward like a ghost, leaving only a faint afterimage where he had stood. The naked eyes of ordinary people couldn't capture his movements at all. Zhu Kexin only saw a blur, and by the time she looked again, Wudi had already rushed in front of the men. A series of dull thuds of flesh hitting flesh rang out in succession, accompanied by the crisp sound of bones breaking. Those 6 scavengers holding guns didn't even get the chance to fire before they were casually knocked to the ground by Wudi. The entire process took less than 3 seconds. Ironstone and his 3 teammates stood rooted to the spot, cold sweat dripping down their cheeks. Chapter 287. Target, Guardians. Wudi glanced at the people unconscious on the ground, and then at the stiff-bodied Ironstone, speaking flatly. Don't worry, I didn't kill them, I just knocked them out. Ironstone suddenly snapped back to his senses, nodding repeatedly, not daring to say a word. I have a few more questions for you. Answer them honestly. Wudi walked up to him, his tone still calm but carrying an unquestionable pressure. Ask away. I'll tell you everything I know. I won't hide a thing. Ironstone immediately nodded like a woodpecker. The turrets on top of the Wangnan town outer city walls, how powerful are they? Hearing this, Ironstone was stunned for a moment, then shook his head with a bitter face. I really don't know about that. I've lived in the outer city since I was a child, and in all my years I've never seen those turrets activated. Seeing Wudi's expression darken slightly, his heart tightened, and he hurriedly added, I'm really not lying to you. I heard from the elders in town that those were meant to defend against mechanical puppet attacks from the wasteland. But more than 100 years ago, the large-scale mechanical puppets were all cleared out. I've heard the turrets on the walls haven't been activated in over 100 years. They've long since become decorations. As for how powerful they are, low-level scavengers like us couldn't possibly know. Oh? Zhu Kexin arched an eyebrow, walked up to Ironstone and brandished the cloud-piercing bow in her hand, squinting to intimidate him. You haven't heard even a little bit? Don't lie to us. I can read minds. If you dare tell a single lie, I'll see right through it. Miss, I really am not lying to you. Ironstone's face turned pale as he hurriedly said, Everything I said is the truth. I haven't even gone near those turrets to see what they look like. I really don't know anything. Looking at him, he didn't seem to be lying. Wudi waved his hand to stop Zhu Kexin and asked his second question. In the past 2 days, has your alliance captured any living outsiders? I've heard that some were caught. But all of that is handled by the guardians of the inner city. People like us can't get near them. The captured outsiders should have all been sent to the inner city. As for how they're being handled or how many there are, we really aren't sure. Wudi's brow furrowed slightly. It was just as he had expected. A low-level scavenger like Ironstone couldn't access such core information. The captured players were likely being interrogated by the Scavenger Alliance. Just as that player in the player channel had said, they were systematically investigating the players' backgrounds. After a moment of silence, Wudi spoke again, asking the most critical question. What is the level of technology in this world exactly? Ironstone was completely bewildered by the question. He opened his mouth but couldn't say a word for a long time. After a while, he shook his head bitterly. Mr. Wu, I really know even less about that. We've only heard that the Remnant Council has mecha, but we've never seen them. Other than that, I don't know anything else. You don't know anything? Zhu Kexin immediately frowned, and raised her cloud-piercing bow again, aiming the arrow at Ironstone's chest. She said in an unfriendly tone, "Then what's the use of keeping you alive? You don't know anything, we ask. I think I'll just give you an arrow and be done with it." Ironstone trembled all over, instinctively wanting to run back but not daring to move. He could only say with a sob in his voice, "I really don't know. The Alliance strictly controls all information. For people at the bottom like us, it's enough just to stay alive. Who would care about those things? Not just me. All the other ordinary scavengers don't know these things either. If you don't believe me, you can ask them." As he spoke, he pointed to his 3 teammates behind him who still didn't dare to move. The 3 of them nodded repeatedly, their faces filled with terror, fearing that Shu Kexen's arrow would really fly their way. Shu Kexen made a move to draw the bowstring fully. Woody reached out and pressed down on her arm, then said flatly to Ironstone, "Put all your firearms and ammunition on the ground." Ironstone felt as if he had been granted a great reprieve. He quickly turned and shouted harshly at his 3 teammates, "Quick! Put down the guns! Take out all the bullets too! Hurry!" The 3 of them didn't dare hesitate for a second, immediately placing the standard-issue rifles on the ground and unbuckling all their ammunition pouches, piling them together. They moved so fast, it was as if they feared being a second too slow. Woody glanced at the firearms and ammunition on the ground and gestured for Shu Kexen to collect all of them. After watching her gather the weapons and bullets, he walked straight toward the RV. Inside the cabin, Shu Kexen slumped onto the sofa and ruffled her hair in frustration. "Boss, what do we do now? We asked for so long and didn't get any useful information. We stopped them for nothing." "It wasn't for nothing. Our goal is clear now. First, find the Guardians and get a map of this place." Wu Di's plan was simple. Once he had the map, he intended to head to the Remnant Council's territory. Only by coming into contact with higher-level powers could he truly understand this world and find the rewards he sought. Having said that, Wu Di spoke to the center console screen. "Xiaoxi, are the Guardian convoys that just left the city still within radar range?" "Commander, there are currently no traces of any convoys within radar range. According to the last captured signal records, the main convoy of the Inner-City Guardians headed northwest. Do you need to follow them?" "Xiaoxi, catch up at maximum speed," Wu Di ordered without the slightest hesitation. "Boss, you're just letting Ironstone and the others go like that?" Shu Kexen sat up straight, saying with some concern, "What if they go back to report and bring a large force to hunt us down?" "It doesn't matter." Wu Di shook his head. "They have no value. Even if they go back to report, it won't change anything." "Boss, you can't be soft-hearted." Shu Kexen immediately put on a look of great distress. "The lives of everyone in this vehicle depend on you. Releasing the tiger back to the mountain will only lead to endless trouble." Wu Di looked at her exaggerated expression and couldn't help but knock her on the head, saying crossly, "Stop being so dramatic." The RV started slowly and then sped off toward the northwest. Wu Di leaned back in the driver's seat, looking out the window at the wasteland scenery rushing past, but he had other plans in mind. When they were in the city, he had some reservations. But now that they were out of the city and on this vast, boundless wasteland, he didn't believe they would encounter any irresistible force. He glanced at the 3 vehicles gradually disappearing in the rearview mirror. "I hope you'll bring more people back with you." Chapter 288. Who on earth are you? The RV sped smoothly across the wasteland. After about 10 minutes, Xiaoxi's voice suddenly rang out in the cabin. "Commander, 2 armed vehicles have been detected 1,000 meters ahead. They are confirmed to be Inner-City Guardian standard vehicles. The real-time feed has been synced to the center console screen." Wu Di and Shu Kexen immediately leaned toward the center console screen. On the screen, 2 black heavy-duty off-road vehicles were traveling northwest at a steady speed, each equipped with a heavy machine gun on its roof. "Just 2 vehicles. Have they split up? Boss, how much stronger do you think these people's combat power is compared to those ordinary scavengers from before?" Shu Kexen raised an eyebrow and said with some surprise, "Xiaoxi, scan and see if there's anything related to the map." Wu Di didn't answer Shu Kexen, but spoke directly to Xiaoxi. "Commander, the scan did not detect any information related to the map. Boss, let's just intercept them and rob them directly. Wouldn't that be much simpler?" Wu Di nodded and, without the slightest hesitation, ordered directly, "Xiaoxi, speed up and charge over. Get close to them." "Understood, Commander. Increasing speed." However, this time the situation was completely different from when they encountered ordinary scavengers. When the RV was still 500 meters away from the other party, Xiaoxi's voice suddenly rang out. "Commander, it has been detected that the weapons systems of the vehicles ahead have been activated. The targets have locked onto our vehicle with clear intent to attack. Should I initiate a counterattack?" As soon as the words fell, Wu Di and Shu Kexin clearly saw the sunroof of the off-road vehicle on the left suddenly open. A Guardian member wearing a helmet climbed out, gripped the heavy machine gun on the roof with both hands, and instantly swiveled the muzzle, aiming it straight in their direction. "What the hell? Aren't we currently disguised as a native vehicle? How did these people tell? They're opening fire directly." Shu Kexin's eyes widened as she spoke in surprise. Wu Di immediately ordered, "Xiaoxi, activate the 30mm autocannon on the roof. Blow up the one on the left first." "Understood, Commander. 30mm autocannon activated. Target locked." Bang! With a dull blast, the autocannon on the roof instantly spat a tongue of fire. An armor-piercing shell accurately struck the body of the off-road vehicle on the left. A massive explosion erupted instantly, and the entire off-road vehicle was swallowed by the flames. The chassis was instantly twisted into a heap of scrap metal, and the heavy machine gun on the roof was blown away, spinning several times in the air before crashing heavily onto the ground. The remaining off-road vehicle's speed surged instantly as it fled forward frantically, attempting to widen the gap. "Thinking of running? Xiaoxi, catch up, force them to a stop. I want to see just how well these regular forces can fight," Shu Kexin shouted immediately. The RV accelerated again, trailing closely behind the off-road vehicle. To Wu Di's surprise, the performance of this Guardian off-road vehicle was exceptionally good. Its speed was almost on par with the RV. The distance between the two sides remained at about 200 meters, and for a moment they couldn't catch up. Wu Di's eyebrows twitched slightly. No wonder the inner-city Guardians could control the entire Wangyan town. Even their vehicle performance was so much better than the modified vehicles of ordinary scavengers. It seemed the core resources of the Scavenger Alliance had indeed all been funneled toward the Guardians. He asked the center console, "Xiaoxi, can you flip their car without destroying the vehicle?" "Commander, I can use armor-piercing shells to strike the ground near the left front wheel. Using the explosion's shockwave to flip the vehicle, the probability of killing the personnel inside is lower than 30%. Shall I execute?" "Execute." Wu Di nodded. "Understood." Adjusting trajectory, firing armor-piercing shells. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. 4 armor-piercing shells were fired in succession, landing precisely on the ground half a meter to the left of the off-road vehicle ahead. 4 consecutive explosions rang out, and a massive shockwave rose from the ground, slamming hard against the left side of the off-road vehicle. The high-speed vehicle instantly lost its balance, tilted sharply to the right, and then rolled twice in the air before landing heavily on its side on the wasteland, its wheels still spinning rapidly. The RV slowly came to a halt beside the overturned vehicle. Wu Di pushed open the door and stepped out. Shu Kexin also immediately followed with her cloud-piercing bow, saying with an excited expression, "Boss, leave these two to me. You just watch from the side." As she spoke, she walked to the side of the overturned vehicle, kicked the roof hard, and shouted loudly, "Listen up inside. Get out of there right now. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." A few seconds after her words fell, the deformed car door was shoved open from the inside, and 2 Guardian personnel wearing black standard combat uniforms crawled out. However, after these 2 came out, they completely ignored the cloud-piercing bow Shu Kexin had aimed at them. They exchanged a glance and actually lunged toward Wu Di and Shu Kexin simultaneously. The man on the left swung his fist, lunging straight for Shu Kexin's face, while the man on the right pulled out a dagger from his waist and stabbed toward Wu Di's chest, his movements crisp and efficient. "Courting death." Shu Kexin snorted coldly and released her finger. With a swoosh, The arrow accurately struck the man's thigh. The man screamed and instantly lost his balance, falling heavily to the ground and wailing in pain while clutching his thigh. On the other side, Wu Di easily sidestepped the dagger stabbing toward him. He took the opportunity to deliver a heavy kick to the man's chest. With a crisp crack and the sound of breaking ribs, the man flew backward like a broken kite, slamming hard against the overturned vehicle and collapsing on the ground, unable to move. "Don't move." Shu Kexen took a step forward, aiming the arrow at their heads, and said coldly, "Move one more time, and this arrow won't be hitting your thigh, it'll go straight through your skull." The two lay on the ground, staring fiercely at Wu Di and Shu Kexen. Their eyes were filled with venom and resentment, but they no longer dared to make any move. Wu Di walked slowly to them, his gaze indifferently sweeping over their combat uniforms. They were identical to the ones worn by the Guardians who had been searching for them in the outer city. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. The man Shu Kexen had shot in the thigh gritted his teeth and said with a look of disbelief, "How can you be so strong? You outsiders are clearly a bunch of fragile trash. They couldn't possibly have this kind of firepower and combat strength." The other man injured by Wu Di also looked at him with the same look of disbelief, muttering, "Who on earth are you people?" Chapter 289. The map is in hand. Shu Kexen brandished the cloud-piercing bow in her hand, its arrowhead still aimed at their heads, and said impatiently, "Stop the nonsense. You're with the Scavenger Alliance Guardians, right? Hand over your map quickly, otherwise you're going to have a hard time in a moment." Hearing this, the two looked at each other and then sneered, their eyes full of disdain and confidence. The one who had been shot in the thigh gritted his teeth and said fiercely, "I don't know if you're really outsiders or not, but I advise you not to do anything." "If you know what's good for you, let us go," the other person added threateningly. "The Alliance's main force is nearby and will be here soon. When that happens, you won't be able to escape even if you had wings. If you dare to kill us, the Alliance will never let you off." Seeing that they were stubborn, Shu Kexen leaned into Wu Di's ear and whispered, "Boss, they're not cooperating at all. I don't know anything about torture or interrogation. Why don't you take over?" Wu Di looked at the two on the ground. "We don't want to be completely hostile towards the Scavenger Alliance. Give us the map, and we'll leave immediately. You can also go back alive." As he spoke, his eyes were fixed on their facial expressions. Sure enough, as soon as he finished speaking, the eyes of one of the Guardians flickered subconsciously, and the corner of his mouth twitched for a moment. Although he quickly masked it, Wu Di captured it precisely. But the two still cursed. "In your dreams. You want our map? Only if we're dead. Let us go now. Otherwise, when the main force arrives, you'll die without a burial place." Shu Kexen drew the cloud-piercing bow to its limit, the arrowhead aimed dead at one of their heads. "I've got a short fuse. Boss, I can't take it anymore. Let's just kill them and search for the map ourselves." "No need." Wu Di raised his hand to press down on her arm and said in a flat tone, "Go search the vehicle. The map is definitely in the car." Hearing this, the Guardian who had been kicked away instantly changed color. A flash of panic appeared in his eyes, though he continued to shout and curse while feigning composure. Wu Di saw this and became even more certain of his judgment. He stood there looking coldly at the two on the ground, completely ignoring their foul-mouthed swearing. A moment later, Shu Kexen emerged from the driver's cab of the overturned off-road vehicle, holding a palm-sized black metal instrument. She shook it with a curious look. "Boss, look at this. There's nothing in the car. I only found this thing. It's smooth and doesn't have a single button. It looks like a power bank." As she spoke, she subconsciously pressed her finger onto the smooth surface of the instrument. The next second, a soft, pale blue beam of light shot out from the top of the instrument and expanded in the air, forming a clear floating projection about 1/2 meter square. On the projection was a complete 3D map of the wasteland surrounding Wangnian town, clearly marking all roads, water sources, and abandoned outposts, with lines and symbols of different colors. "Wow, this is so cool," Shu Kexen gestured in the air with an amazed look. "It's actually a floating projection map. High-tech, this is 10,000 times more convenient than a paper map. By the way, boss, I took all the guns and bullets from their car while I was at it. Didn't leave a single thing. She turned to look at the two guardians on the ground and raised her chin triumphantly. Now that we have the map, you're completely useless. After saying that, she looked at Woody and asked, Boss, what should we do with these two? Should we just kill them? Woody retracted his gaze from the floating map and let it fall on the two men. He asked one last question. I'll ask you one last thing. What exactly do you capture outsiders for? However, the two remained silent, only staring fixedly at Woody. It was clear they were determined not to say anything. Seeing this, Woody said no more and turned to walk toward the RV. Let's go. Shukexin was stunned for a moment and quickly followed. As she walked, she looked back at the two on the ground and asked in confusion, Boss, just leave them like that? You're letting them go back to report? The two didn't look back and walked straight onto the RV. Woody returned to the driver's seat and spoke in a deep voice to the center console. Xiao Shi, activate the roof 30mm auto cannon and give them a shot. Understood, Commander. 30mm auto cannon activated. Target locked. Firing. Bang! Through the car window, Shukexin saw the overturned off-road vehicle in the distance, instantly swallowed by flames, followed by the sound of an explosion. She let out a long sigh of relief and patted her chest, saying, You scared me. I thought you were going to be soft-hearted and let them go again. If those two were let back, they would definitely lead the main force to hunt us down. Woody didn't respond. He placed the black map instrument on the center console and asked Xiaoshi, Xiaoshi, can the data from this map be recorded into your system? Commander, scanning. Scan complete. Data has been successfully and fully recorded into the system. As the voice fell, the center console screen lit up instantly, and the floating projection map from earlier appeared completely on the screen. It was recorded that easily? Shukexin leaned in with some surprise. I thought this kind of high-tech stuff would take a long time to crack before we could get the data. Woody didn't speak. His eyes were fixed on the complete map on the center console screen as he listened to Xiaoshi's synchronized explanation. As Xiaoshi's voice slowly rang out, it was the first time he truly stepped beyond the limitations of Wangyan Town and saw the general layout of this world. According to the map's labeled information, Wangyan Town, where we are currently located, is at the easternmost edge of the Eastern Plains. It is indeed the largest scavenger gathering place in the Eastern Plains, as Ironstone said. The entire Eastern Plains is vast and boundless, with hundreds of large and small scavenger gathering places scattered across it, all of which fall under the jurisdiction of the Scavenger Alliance. To the north of the map, the area labeled Frozen Fortress is the territory controlled by the Remnant Council, approximately 3,200 kilometers from Wangyan Town. This area is covered in snow and ice year-round. To the west of the map, the area labeled Black Rock Mountains is the territory of the Myriad Machines clan, approximately 3,000 kilometers from Wangyan Town. This area is predominantly mountainous and rich in mineral resources. Xiaoshi's voice paused. As for the entire southern region, it is completely covered in large patches of red, with no text labels or geographical information, nor any records of Scavenger Alliance activity. Based on the map's scale, the area of this unknown red zone is much larger than the Eastern Plains, Frozen Fortress, and Black Rock Mountains combined. Chapter 290, Universal Wanted Order. Boss, are we really going straight to the Remnant Council? It's 3,200 kilometers. Even at full speed, it'll take at least a dozen hours. That's way too far. Shukexin pointed at the blue Frozen Fortress region in the north on the center console screen and couldn't help but click her tongue. The Remnant Council currently displays the highest level of technology to the outside world. We need to go and understand the situation. After explaining, Wu Di gave orders directly to the air. Xiaoshi, plan the optimal route and head toward the Remnant Council at full speed. Received, Commander. The optimal route has been planned. The total distance is 3,172 kilometers, proceeding at full speed. The RV slowly turned and sped toward the depths of the northern wasteland. Wu Di leaned back in the driver's seat and glanced at the time in the upper right corner of the screen, 7:12 a.m. He gently rubbed the space between his eyebrows, feeling a sudden sense of emotion. It had been less than 30 hours since the system threw him into this world, but it felt like months. He had hardly had a moment's rest. Finally, I can catch my breath. For the next 10 hours or so, nothing should happen, right? It's the perfect time for a good rest. Shu Kexin also lay back in the passenger seat. Wu Di nodded without speaking. Indeed, they had completely left the alert range of Wangyan town, and the surrounding area was uninhabited. They shouldn't encounter any danger in the short term. He raised his hand and opened the player communication channel, wanting to see the current state of the player community. But as soon as the channel opened, dense messages began refreshing like a crazy tide. However, the content was completely different from what he'd expected, causing his brow to furrow instantly. Holy crap, the Scavenger Alliance actually let me go and even gave me a quest. For real? How come I didn't get it? Do you have to be caught by them first? I was caught last night. I thought I was dead for sure, but they didn't kill me. They just gave me a purple quality rifle and a map, telling me to find 3 people. If I bring them back, I can trade them for a massive amount of supplies. I was just stopped by the natives and received the same quest. This map is even a high-tech 3D projection. Say no more, they're only 600 kilometers away from me. I'm heading out first. Is the bounty for players or the natives? It's 1 man and 2 women. There are portraits of them on this map locator. They look like players. This map even provides real-time positioning. Damn, they're constantly moving and their speed is pretty fast. I got the quest too. The final reward is an orange quality sniper rifle. It's a pity I can't post the equipment stats here. You guys have no idea how insane those stats are. There's really real-time positioning? That's ridiculous. What on earth did these 3 do to provoke such outrage that there's such a costly bounty on them? The bounty must be for players. If it were the natives, they wouldn't come looking for us. Could it be players on the leaderboard? Come out and show yourselves. Cooperate a bit so we can take that orange quality weapon. Anyone want to team up? Let's do this job together. By the way, what tier is orange quality? Is it after gold quality? Is it stronger or weaker than gold quality? How do we accept the quest? The Scavenger Alliance won't go back on their word, will they? What does provide modifications mean? Can my level 5 car be modified to level 6? Don't you guys think, if it really is a player, what did they do? Are you sure you're going there to catch someone and not just to die? Regardless of whether it's a trap? Isn't it great just to get a purple quality rifle and supplies first? Once we have them, what can they do to us? Now, as long as you find the Scavenger Alliance the natives, they'll give you this quest. Now, as long as you find the Scavenger Alliance the natives, they'll give you this quest. Now, as long as you find the Scavenger Alliance the natives, they'll give you this quest. Important things must be said 3 times. Exactly. Anyway, my life is cheap. A gamble can turn a bicycle into a motorcycle. If we manage to kill them, we'll take off instantly. Who cares? There's strength in numbers. If hundreds of us go at once, even if they're gods, they won't be able to hold out. The entire communication channel was in complete chaos as all the players discussed the matter. The players who were originally being hunted by the Scavenger Alliance had turned into the Alliance's bounty hunters overnight. What the hell? What's going on? The Scavenger Alliance is actually issuing quests to players for a bounty. Boss, there's an orange quality weapon. How about we go take this quest too? Shu Kexin was also looking at the communication channel at this time. Wu Di turned his head and looked at Shu Kexin as if she were an idiot. Shu Kexin looked bewildered. Boss, why are you looking at me like that? Aren't you tempted? Wu Di said, Who do you think the bounty is for? Hearing Wu Di's words, Shu Kexin suddenly realized. Her mouth dropped open, and it took her a long time to react. No way. Such a big commotion. Do we have that much of a grudge? Wu Di never expected that the Scavenger Alliance would use this method to deal with them. Instead of continuing to slaughter players, they had turned players into their tools, using rich rewards to entice them into hunting him. What alarmed him even more was that the Alliance could track their location in real time. This meant that no matter where they fled, there would be a constant stream of players swarming toward them. This was much more troublesome than the Scavenger Alliance sending its own large army to hunt them down. Players were numerous. scattered across every corner of the wasteland, and they weren't afraid to die. Even if they could kill 10 or 100, they couldn't kill 1,000 or 10,000. As long as that real-time positioning remained, they would never have peace. How do they know where we are? They couldn't be lying to us, could they? Shu Kexin still found it hard to believe. I don't know either. Wu Di shook his head. He was also pondering this question. Damn, then aren't we just living targets on the whole map? We'll be hunted wherever we go. Shu Kexin realized the severity of the situation, and the relaxed expression on her face completely vanished. Wu Di took a deep breath, suppressed his shock, and his gaze became incredibly cold. He gave a low command to the center console. Xiao Shi, from now on, as long as any vehicle or personnel are detected within radar range, if there's even a hint of hostile intent, kill them immediately without needing to ask. Received, Commander. Oh, right, boss. Earlier in that Guardian's vehicle, I also scavenged 2 rifles they used. They're different from the ones used by ordinary scavengers, and the stats are pretty good. Shu Kexin suddenly remembered something. As she spoke, she displayed the attribute interface in front of Wu Di. Chapter 291. It's only the second day. W1 Standard Issue Assault Rifle, purple quality. Caliber 7.62 millimeters. Effective range 800 meters. Magazine capacity 50 rounds. Compatible with all types of 7.62 millimeters ammunition. A standard issue rifle mass-produced by the Remnant Council's arsenal. Features built-in standard stabilization, steady and controllable during full auto fire with a tight, consistent ballistic trajectory and minimal spread. Possesses armor-piercing capabilities against armored targets and various mechanical constructs. Looking at the weapon's attributes, Wu Di remarked, "This world is truly interesting. Boss, people across the entire map are coming at us with these guns. How is that interesting?" Shu Kexin said with a bitter face. "With so many players plus the natives, no matter how well we fight, we won't be able to withstand a war of attrition, right? What should we do?" "They have to be able to catch us first," Wu Di said calmly. Though he spoke lightly, his heart was far from peaceful. What he feared most was never the players themselves, but the Scavenger Alliance's eerie real-time positioning ability. If he couldn't figure out how they were tracking them, they would always be on the defensive, unable to escape the pursuit no matter where they ran. Thinking of this, he looked up at the console and asked, "Xiao Shi, can you analyze how the natives are currently tracking our position?" "Commander, based on currently available information, the highest probability method is satellite positioning." "What the hell? Satellites? No way! This dump still has satellites. I thought we'd long since returned to a primitive society. The Scavenger Alliance can actually control satellites. How do we hide from that?" Shu Kexin instantly bolted upright from the passenger seat. "Wait, that's not right, boss. If they really had such a powerful method as satellite positioning, why didn't they use it when we were in Wangnan town? We were dangling right under their noses for so long. If they could track us, they would have sent a massive force to surround us long ago. Why bother with all this now?" Shu Kexin quickly realized, frowning. "Boss, what do you think is going on?" Shu Kexin looked completely bewildered. Wu Di didn't speak, thinking back to the weapon's attributes. The possibility he considered was whether this satellite belonged to the Remnant Council. But the strange thing was that currently the Remnant Council and the Scavenger Alliance seemed to have a hostile relationship. So, what exactly was their connection? Don't worry about that for now. Focus on the information in the communication channel. He shook his head, suppressing the thought for the moment. Idle speculation was useless right now. "Okay," Shu Kexin nodded immediately. "What's the deal with these 3 wanted people? Does anyone know?" "Everyone, don't let greed cloud your judgment. Think about it. If the natives couldn't deal with them, can you? I bet they aren't ordinary players. Ordinary players wouldn't make the Alliance spend this much. If they're players, can't they see our chat too? How are we supposed to chase them? I still think something's fishy. Could this be an Alliance trap? Are they trying to lure us all there to wipe us out in one go?" Holy crap. Now that you mention it, I'm getting chills. Doesn't that mean they saw everything we just said? So what if they saw? What's there to be afraid of? There's strength in numbers. Are we really afraid of 3 people when there are so many of us? I also think this mission is off. The natives are clearly stronger than us and still can't handle it. I'm out. Anyone want to join me in taking down the natives instead? Staying alive is what's most important. Everyone, I'm ranked 58th on the vehicle leaderboard. If you want to team up, add me. I'll take overall command. Not only can we claim this reward, but we can also attack the natives while we're at it. Damn, a real expert. Carry me, big shot. I've already added you. By the way, those two women are really pretty. I haven't seen a woman in nearly a month since coming here. True, it's a pity. It would be great if we could capture them alive. I'm in. Once they're caught, we definitely have to... Here! If the natives had the power to wipe us all out, we wouldn't be able to run anyway. Why overthink it? Let's get the gear first. I haven't seen a purple quality weapon until now. This is a huge profit. Watching the various messages in the channel, Woody's frown deepened. The worst-case scenario was happening. Players were starting to organize teams. This meant that what they encountered next would either be swarms of players or large-scale native forces. Just then, Xiaoxi's voice suddenly rang out in the cabin. Commander, radar has detected 5 vehicles 1,000 meters ahead. Identified as players. No hostile intent detected. They are traveling in our direction. Should I initiate attack protocols? Wu Di and Zhu Kexin looked up at the center console screen simultaneously. On the screen, 5 red dots were slowly approaching. 5 vehicles? People caught up that fast? Why don't we just fire the cannons and blow them up? It'll save us trouble later, Zhu Kexin said bluntly. Wu Di didn't answer immediately, his eyes fixed on the 5 points of light on the screen. The driving routes of these 5 vehicles were very scattered, not forming an encirclement, and their speed was slow. They indeed didn't look like they were coming to attack. Boss, is it possible they don't dare to make the first move and are waiting for the main force to arrive? It's possible. Wu Di nodded slightly. He didn't believe it was such a coincidence that they just happened to be heading in their direction. Boss, stop thinking about it. You just overthink everything. Why bother wasting your brain cells? Zhu Kexin complained as she watched the silent Wu Di. Wu Di was silent for a few seconds. Xiaoxi bypassed them. We won't engage in conflict. Our primary goal right now is to reach the Remnant Council. There's no need to waste time here. Understood, Commander. Planning route. We will bypass the targets via the wasteland to the left. Estimated deviation from the main road is 5 kilometers, which will not affect the overall itinerary, Xiaoxi's voice replied immediately. The RV slowly turned left, avoiding the 5-player vehicles traveling ahead. Zhu Kexin looked out the window. Boss, they'll still be chasing right behind us this way, and this is just the first batch. There will definitely be more people later. Are we really going to keep hiding like this? Wu Di didn't speak. His gaze once again cast upon the wasteland scenery rapidly receding outside the window. Hiding. He certainly wouldn't keep hiding forever. He had to figure out the Scavenger Alliance's positioning method as soon as possible, and then solve this trouble for good. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a single moment of peace on this 3,000-kilometer journey. Currently, these people could find them through positioning, but he didn't believe players could break through the double stealth of the holographic phantom camouflage and the DXF full protection composite coating. Thinking of this, Wu Di spoke directly. What's the rush? It's only the second day. Chapter 292, Mechas Appear. The RV sped smoothly across the withered wasteland. Wu Di leaned back in the driver's seat, his gaze occasionally scanning the radar on the center console screen and the player communication channel. Zhu Kexin sat in the passenger seat, staring fixedly at the communication channel. Since bypassing the first group of players, the two had never let down their guard. Whenever a target appeared on the radar, Xiaoxi would immediately plan a detour route in advance to avoid all possible contact. Messages in the player communication channel were still refreshing frantically, with the topic always revolving around the bounty. Damn, this target is way too fast. I've been chasing for half an hour, and the distance is only getting further. Who knows what kind of car they're driving? This has to be at least a purple quality engine, and they must have added speed-boosting accessories. I've hit 200, and I still can't catch up. My speed is at 220 and the distance is still growing. How are we supposed to chase? If I'm not careful, I'll flip my own car. We were being chased by the natives before, but now we can't find a single one. Slow down your chase and wait for us to take the mission and get the weapons before you go in. This is a rare benefit. Anyone else want to team up? There are the natives everywhere now. Anyone want to take them on together? What about that big shot ranked 58th on the vehicle leaderboard? What happened to the group he organized? Why is there no sound from them? Aren't you guys curious why the natives are so fierce? Their physical fitness is just abnormal, and the recoil of these weapons is insane. Do you think this world might have something like a super serum? There are mechas already, so a serum would be quite reasonable, wouldn't it? Let's go take the mission first. Regardless of whether we join the encirclement or not, at least there are weapons and supplies to be had. I think this mission is a bust. How can we do anything if we can't even catch up? Shu Kexen looked at the communication channel and couldn't help but curl her lip. These people still want to chase us. They can't even see our taillights. What wishful thinking. For the next 2+ hours, everything was exceptionally smooth. Small squads of the natives appeared on the radar from time to time, and occasionally they encountered player teams. But Xiao Shi detected them all in advance and steered the RV around them, avoiding any conflict. Shu Kexen's tensed nerves gradually relaxed. She leaned back in her seat and yawned. Seems it's not that dangerous after all. Much ado about nothing. Do these people even know what a top-ranked big shot is? Right, boss? Wu Di was about to speak when Xiao Shi's voice suddenly rang out. Commander, high-speed flying targets detected approaching from the rear. Quantity 3, speed 500 kilometers per hour. Estimated arrival in 20 seconds. Targets identified as unknown mecha units. Real-time footage has been synced to the center console screen. Shall I initiate a counterattack? The moment the words fell, Wu Di and Shu Kexen both looked toward the center console screen. On the screen, 3 striking red dots were approaching them at an incredible speed. A second later, real-time footage of the 3 dots appeared on the screen. They were 3 silver-gray humanoid mechas, less than 3 meters tall, with sleek and sharp lines, their overall design full of futuristic flair. The surface of the mechas was covered in a layer of smooth alloy armor, with no exposed pipes or interfaces visible. The armor was etched with dense, dark gold runes that shimmered faintly under the sunlight. Mechas? Boss, are these the mechas from the Remnant Council? Holy crap, we didn't offend them, did we? Why are they coming for us, too? Shu Kexen instantly bounced up from her seat. Wu Di's gaze instantly turned icy cold. Without the slightest hesitation, he ordered, Xiao Shi, activate the roof-mounted 30mm autocannon. Fire at full power and destroy them. Received, Commander. 30mm autocannon activated. Targets locked. Firing. Bang, 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 bang. The autocannon on the roof instantly spewed long tongues of fire, and armor-piercing shells rained down toward the 3 mechas behind them. However, a scene that made Wu Di's pupils shrink occurred. Just as the armor-piercing shells were about to hit, the 3 mechas simultaneously performed extremely agile, evasive maneuvers, tracing 3 eerie arcs in the air and dodging the vast majority of the shells. The dust kicked up by the explosions instantly enveloped the entire area. Commander, the 30mm autocannon ammunition has been completely depleted. 3 hits recorded on targets, but no effective damage dealt. Xiao Shi's voice rang out immediately. Even the 30mm autocannon couldn't break through. This armor is way too tough. Boss, which do you think is stronger? These mechas are yours. Do you want to go down and give it a try? Shu Kexen wasn't nervous at all now and was even joking around. Xiao Shi, activate the Lu Dun 1130 close-in weapon system. Wu Di ignored Shu Kexen. He hadn't tested the power of the Lu Dun 1130 close-in weapon system since its synthesis, so these 3 mechas were perfect for a trial run. Received, Commander. Lu Dun 1130 close-in weapon system activated. Rate of fire adjusted to 11,000 rounds per minute. Targets locked. Firing. Rat-tat-tat-tat-tat, accompanied by Xiao Shi's voice, continuous cannon fire erupted from the roof of the RV. The deafening sound instantly echoed across the wasteland as a dense stream of shells, like a torrent of steel, poured toward the three mechas in the dust. Orange-red tongues of fire flickered at the muzzles, and shell casings cascaded from beneath the cannons like a waterfall, eventually piling into a small golden mountain on the ground. In less than 10 seconds, the gunfire ceased. "Commander, all targets have been destroyed." Xiaoxi's voice returned to its calm state. On the center console screen, the billowing dust gradually cleared, revealing the scene within. The three mechas that had once looked so formidable were now 3 piles of twisted scrap metal. The dense barrage had completely shredded their armor, and internal components were scattered everywhere, emitting thick black smoke, their mobility completely lost. Shu Kexin stared blankly at the 3 piles of scrap metal on the center console screen, unable to say a word for a long time. After a while, she let out a long breath and patted her chest. "My God, is this close-in weapon system really that fierce? Or were those mechas just too weak?" Woody stared at the wreckage of the 3 mechas on the screen, his brow furrowing deeply. Mechas from the Remnant Council had actually appeared here, heading straight for them with a clear objective. Recalling that standard-issue weapons from the Remnant Council's factories had appeared in the hands of the Scavenger Alliance, it suggested that the relationship between the Scavenger Alliance and the Remnant Council was far more complex than imagined. The mobility and defensive capabilities the mechas had just displayed also raised a sense of vigilance in his heart. "Xiaoxi, let's go take a look." "Received, Commander." "Boss, if this kind of fire coverage were directed at you, could you withstand it? Do you want to try it out later?" Chapter 293, New Progress. The RV stopped beside the wreckage of the mechas, and Wu Di was the first to step out. The ground in front of them had been leveled by the recent bombardment, leaving behind scorched earth mixed with molten metal fragments. The 3 originally silver-gray mechas had been reduced to 3 piles of twisted scrap metal, their armor torn to shreds by dense shelling, internal wiring and components scattered everywhere, still emitting faint wisps of blue smoke. Following behind Wu Di, Shu Kexin crouched down and picked up a palm-sized armor fragment. It felt heavy in her hand, its surface still bearing the marks of high-temperature scorching. After turning it over and examining it for a while, she suddenly pointed to a crystal embedded in the center of the fragment and said, "Boss, look at this. Isn't this a Qianyuan crystal?" Wu Di walked over and took the fragment, seeing a fingernail-sized crystal indeed embedded inside. A faint halo of light flowed across its surface, identical to the Qianyuan crystals they had obtained from the energy warehouse before. "It seems these mechas are powered by Qianyuan crystals." Wu Di's fingers lightly brushed over the crystal. Then he looked at the dense, dark gold patterns on the surface of the mecha wreckage. These patterns weren't carved onto the armor's surface. Instead, they seemed to have grown out from within the metal, spreading along the armor's texture, appearing both eerie and mysterious. "These patterns are also very strange. They don't look like ordinary decorations," Shu Kexin said, leaning in with a frown. Wu Di shook his head. These patterns didn't feel like products of technology to him either. "Collect all the mecha fragments. Don't leave a single piece behind," he stood up and ordered. "Got it!" Shu Kexin immediately responded. The 2 of them quickly finished cleaning up and returned to the RV. The RV started up again, continuing its rapid journey toward the north. "Boss, do you think these mechas were really sent by the Remnant Council? We don't seem to have offended them, yet they tried to kill us right from the start." Shu Kexin said indignantly as she returned to the passenger seat after sending all the mecha fragments into the domain space. "Probably. Boss, when we get to the Remnant Council's territory, we must teach them a lesson. I really can't swallow this insult. It's making me so angry." Wu Di didn't answer Shu Kexin. Instead, he looked at the mecha fragment in his hand, thinking about the purpose of those patterns. Just as Shu Kexin was about to say more, Su Wanwan, Lin Yue, and Lin Shi walked out from the domain space. "Big brother Wu Di, was there a fight just now? Why didn't you call us?" Lin Yu was the first to jump out, her loud voice instantly echoing throughout the cabin. Wu Di looked at them and asked, "Where's Xiaoya?" Xiaoya fell asleep inside, so we didn't wake her up, Su Wanwan replied from the side. By now, Lin Yu had already leaned in next to Shu Kexin, asking non-stop. Shu Kexin described the battle to them with animated gestures, from the mecha's sudden appearance to the 30mm autocannon's inability to damage them, and then to the Lu Dun 1130 close-in weapon system showing its power, turning the 3 mechas into scrap metal in just over 10 seconds. Her storytelling was vivid and colorful. Time slipped away quietly during their idle chatter, and it was soon noon. Wu Di had been staring at the contents of the communication channel. It's very strange. The target keeps heading north. Do you think they also received some kind of mission? Maybe they get rewards as long as they reach the north? Is the person above an idiot? Why are you still discussing this here? Can't you use private messages? The target is obviously a player, so aren't you just letting them know our information? Are any of you in the north? Go and stop them. What are you thinking? Only the Scavenger Alliance would issue this mission. Even if there are players in the north who haven't taken the mission, why would they go and stop them? Do they want to die? I took the mission and got a purple rifle, 200 rounds of ammunition, and some food and water. I made a profit. As for the bounty, whoever wants to go can go anyway. I'm not going there to die. Everyone doing the mission, add each other as friends and chat privately. Stop communicating in here. I was quite close to the target just now, probably less than 2 kilometers away. I heard a very loud sound, both dense and muffled. I don't know what happened. Aren't you guys overstepping? Since when is it your turn to tell me where I can discuss things? Fuck. Don't let me find out who you are, or you'll be the first one I take out. Has no one made contact with the Remnant Council on the map? Could it be that the mission the wanted person took is from the Remnant Council? At this moment, Su Wanwan suddenly spoke up. Big brother Wu Di, Xiaoya is much better now. She shouldn't have any resistance toward us anymore. Yeah, big brother Wu Di. My sister Wanwan, and I put in a lot of effort, Lin Yu added from the side. I'll go make lunch. It'll be ready soon, Lin Shi said, and walked away, with Su Wanwan following closely behind. Then I'll go call Xiaoya. Lin Yu raised her hand, turned around, and walked toward the domain space. Not long after, she walked out holding Xiaoya's hand. Xiaoya still looked timid, hiding behind Lin Yue. Only when she saw Wu Di did she slightly lift her head and call out softly, Brother Wu Di. After finishing lunch and tidying up, they all sat together. Xiaoya sat on the sofa, her fingers constantly twisting the hem of her clothes. After hesitating for a long time, she finally looked up at Wu Di and said softly, Brother Wu Di, I have something I want to tell you all. Everyone looked at Xiaoya. Xiaoya's eyes turned slightly red. She took a deep breath and slowly began to speak. Actually, I'm not my parents' biological daughter. I was picked up by them on the wasteland when I was 3 years old. I don't remember who my biological parents are. Her voice was very small, carrying a hint of a tremble. My adoptive parents were ordinary scavengers, and they were very good to me. Half a year ago, they went to the edge of the Black Rock Mountains with the inner city guardians to carry out a mission. In the end, only the guardians came back. They told me my parents encountered mechanical puppets and died, and they couldn't even bring back their bodies. At this point, Xiaoya's tears finally couldn't help but fall. From then on, no one cared about me anymore. The guardians just notified me and never showed up again. I had to scavenge for trash in the outer city by myself. When I was hungry, I looked for leftovers, and when it was cold, I hid in abandoned houses. She wiped her tears, her eyes filled with conflict and pain. I was told from a young age that the guardians are there to protect us, that they are good people. But if they are really good people, why didn't they even give me a bite to eat after my parents died? Why didn't they even bring back my parents' bodies? I hate them, but I don't know who I should hate. Chapter 294, Rune Mecha. Xiaoya's voice carried a heavy nasal tone as she continued to sob. I also heard my foster parents secretly mention something. Over 300 years ago, for some unknown reason, Everyone from the great Qian imperial family evacuated to the south and never appeared again. She lifted her head, a hint of confusion in her eyes. They also said that all the technology held by both the Scavenger Alliance and the Remnant Council was inherited from what the great Qian imperial family left behind. They've always wanted to go to the south, and my parents were often conscripted to carry out missions there. As her voice fell, Wudi's pupils constricted sharply. The great Qian imperial family, the southern red zone. He finally understood why that entire southern area on the map was colored red without any labels. Lin Yu's grip on Xiaoya's arm tightened slightly. She opened her mouth but couldn't say a word for a long time. Xu Kexin also set aside her usual boisterous attitude, her face filled with shock. Su Wanwan and Lin Shi exchanged a glance, both seeing disbelief in each other's eyes. They had never imagined that this chaotic wasteland world actually had such a history. After a long while, Lin Yui whispered, "It's okay, Xiaoya. It's all in the past." "Exactly." Xu Kexin nodded in agreement, her tone firm. "Those guardians are no good. If we get the chance, we'll definitely help you find out the cause of your foster parents' deaths and avenge them." Wudi looked at Xiaoya, his gaze shifting slightly. He remained silent for a moment before slowly speaking, "We will. There will definitely be a chance." The RV continued to speed smoothly across the wasteland, constantly drawing closer to the frozen fortress in the north. Wu Dai leaned back in the driver's seat, his gaze fixed on the scenery rushing past outside the window, but Xiaoya's words kept echoing in his mind. Why did the great Qian imperial family evacuate entirely to the south? What exactly happened 300 years ago? What kind of entanglements existed between the Remnant Council and the Scavenger Alliance because of Great Qian's legacy? What was their current relationship? Questions rose one after another in his heart like a fog, making the truth of this world even more mysterious. The rest of the journey was unexpectedly peaceful. Groups of the natives and scattered player vehicles appeared continuously on the radar, but Xiaoxi detected them in advance and maneuvered the RV around them. Along the way, they also encountered intermittent small scavenger settlements. Wu Di had no intention of stopping and bypassed all the settlements, heading straight north. Time slipped away quietly during the monotonous drive as the sun gradually sank in the west. At 5:50 p.m., after finishing a simple dinner, the group sat around the sofa in the cabin. "We're finally almost there," Xu Kexin said, looking at the map on the center console screen. "Look, we're less than 300 kilometers from the frozen fortress now. If we hadn't been dodging those damn the natives and players all the way, we would have arrived this afternoon." "Yeah, all this hiding has been such a waste of time," Lin Yu complained. "But at least we're about to reach the Remnant Council's territory. Once we're there, the people from the Scavenger Alliance shouldn't keep chasing us, right?" "Hard to say." Wu Dai shook his head. "Since the Remnant Council sent mechas, it means they definitely have a connection with the Scavenger Alliance. It might be even more dangerous once we reach their territory." Just then, as the clock struck 18, Su Wanwan's talent treasure chest refreshed on the coffee table right on time. It was Xiaoya's first time seeing this. She leaned forward to look at the suddenly appearing chest, her eyes full of curiosity. "Xiaoya, this is Sister Wanwan's talent ability. There are amazing things inside," Lin Yu said, putting her arm around Xiaoya. Xu Kexin added, "We haven't seen a supply crate in 2 days. I've actually started to miss them." Su Wanwan glanced at everyone and reached out to open the chest. She then displayed the attributes of the blueprint she obtained to everyone. Spatial Backpack Blueprint, purple quality. Use this blueprint to craft a space backpack with a 2 cubic meter exclusive independent storage space. It features the dual effects of spatial stabilization and weight exemption. The internal environment remains constant, and stored materials are unaffected by external environmental factors. It also possesses a weight reduction effect, reducing the weight of all items stored within the backpack by 50%. Upon use, the production of space backpacks is permanently unlocked. Crafting requirements: rubber 5, plastic 5, quantum essence 5. A space backpack? Xu Kexin looked at the blueprint, her face full of confusion. Why is there such a thing? Don't we have personal space? What is this backpack for? Yeah, Sister Wanwan. Lin Yu also looked at the attributes curiously. This blueprint is so strange. Not everyone has a space as large as our vehicle, Lin Shi spoke up from the side. Lin Yu, Su Wanwan, and Xu Kexin immediately looked at Lin Shi and suddenly realized, "Oh, right!" Lin Yu and Xu Kexin looked at each other and said in unison. Wu Di looked at the attributes on the blueprint and nodded slightly. However, this item was indeed useless to them. This blueprint would either serve as a secondary sacrifice for talent promotion or be crafted for sale. Then can we put this up for sale too? Lin Yu shook Su Wanwan's arm excitedly. This thing will definitely be popular. The price won't be bad at all. Everyone looked at Lin Yu, and even Xiaoya, who was being held by Lin Yu, looked at her in surprise. Xu Kexin looked at Lin Yu. Xiao Yu, I've noticed you really have an extraordinary talent for this. You get so excited the moment doing business is mentioned. That's true, Xiao Yu. Su Wanwan smiled and handed the blueprint to Wu Di. At that moment, Xiaoya suddenly spoke up. I remembered something else. Her words instantly drew everyone's attention. Being watched by everyone at once, Xiaoya looked a bit awkward and nervous. Wu Di softened his tone and said gently, It's okay, Xiaoya. Just take your time. Xiaoya pursed her lips and said, I remember hearing my parents mention in their casual chats that they once carried out a mission with the Guardians, and they even coordinated with the Remnant Council's rune mechas during the mission. But the losses in that mission were extremely heavy. As soon as she finished, Xu Kexin spoke up excitedly. No wonder the Scavenger Alliance and the Remnant Council are colluding in secret. It turns out they've been together all along. No wonder they deployed mechas to search for us. After saying that, she turned to Wu Di with a look of eagerness. Boss, when we arrive, let's go settle the score with the Remnant Council. You didn't take me along for the previous missions, so you can't leave me out this time. Let's pull off something big together. Chapter 295. Mechanical Tide. Lin Shi spoke up at the right time, looking at Xiaoya and asking softly, Xiaoya, can you remember any other details? For example, the specific location of that mission, or what the mecha looked like. Xiaoya wrinkled her small face slightly and shook her head with some difficulty. I can't remember much more. I was too young back then and only happened to overhear a few sentences. It was only because everyone mentioned mecha just now that I suddenly remembered this. Wu Di was deep in thought about what Xiaoya had said, pondering to himself, Rune mecha. Could it be that the patterns on the mecha wreckage I saw before were rune patterns? Or does the Remnant Council have even higher-grade mecha forces hidden in their hands? Boss, you're spacing out again. Xu Kexin nudged him with her elbow and winked. With so many beauties right in front of you, you actually have the mind to daze off. What kind of bad things are you plotting? Wu Di snapped back to reality, glanced at her, and didn't respond, only saying in a heavy voice, Everyone, be careful tonight. The closer we get to the frozen fortress, the easier it is for things to go wrong. Don't worry, big brother Wu Di. I won't sleep tonight. I'll stay here and keep watch. Lin Yu immediately raised her hand and said, If I find anything, I'll call you. I guarantee there won't be any problems. Xu Kexin immediately leaned over to Lin Yui's side. Xiao Yui, I'll be with you tonight so you won't get bored. Wu Di shook his head slightly. It's not that extreme, just don't sleep too soundly. Lin Shi stood up, took Xiaoya's hand and said softly, Xiaoya, big sister will take you to the bedroom to rest tonight. After saying that, she gave Su Wanwan a quiet look. Su Wanwan immediately stepped forward and took Xiaoya's other hand, saying with a smile, Let's go, Xiaoya. I'll take you to watch TV tonight. Seeing this, Lin Yu waved her hand at Xiaoya and said with a smile, Go ahead, Xiaoya. Big sister has things to do tonight, so I won't be accompanying you. Xiaoya stood up, glanced at Lin Yue and Wu Di, nodded obediently, and followed Lin Shi and Su Wanwan into the bedroom. The carriage instantly became quiet. Meanwhile, in the deepest part of a bastion within the frozen fortress to the north, in a windowless underground conference room, A massive holographic image was projected onto the cold metal walls. 5 people in matching black uniforms sat on either side of a long table, their faces expressionless. Sitting at the head of the table was a withered old man with graying hair. He was the chairman of the Remnant Council, Chairman Chen Xuan. "Let's begin." Chairman Chen Xuan's voice was hoarse and low, carrying a hint of unquestionable authority. A middle-aged man wearing gold-rimmed glasses sitting to his left nodded and raised his hand to pull up a set of data. "Chairman, fellow councilors, this is a statistical report of the losses caused by the outsiders over the past 2 days. As of now, 37 small settlements have been attacked by outsiders, and over 800 refugees have been killed. According to statistics, all the appearing outsiders are scattered across the eastern wasteland." He paused and brought up another image. "Additionally, according to news from the Scavenger Alliance, 3 days ago, the energy warehouse in Wangyan town was burglarized, resulting in the loss of a large amount of Qianyuan crystals. The specific quantity was not stated, but it has been confirmed to be the work of outsiders." As he finished speaking, a burly man sitting on the right sneered. "That bunch of trash from the Scavenger Alliance can't even guard their own nest. I think they've grown complacent in recent years. However, for us, this is actually a good thing." "Councillor Zhao is right," another tall, thin councillor chimed in. "The Scavenger Alliance has become increasingly disobedient over the years. Taking a big loss this time is just what they need to make them behave." Chairman Chen Xuan didn't speak, only tapping his fingers lightly on the tabletop. At that moment, a woman in military uniform sitting at the end of the table spoke up. She was the garrison commander of the Remnant Council, Commander Chu Ling. "Everyone, don't be happy too soon." Commander Chu Ling's voice was cold. "Although the Scavenger Alliance is useless, they are our most important source of energy. If they collapse, then all our standardized mecha will turn into a pile of scrap metal. Furthermore, just this morning, the 3 standardized mecha we sent to track the group of outsiders who robbed the energy warehouse were all destroyed." "What?" The burly man from before suddenly stood up, his face filled with disbelief. 3 standardized mecha were actually destroyed by a few outsiders. How is that possible?" "That is the reality," Commander Chu Ling said expressionlessly. "According to the analysis of the last data transmitted back, the opponent's firepower is extremely fierce. Moreover, they are highly mobile. Currently, this group is moving towards the frozen fortress and has already reached the outer perimeter security zone." The conference room fell silent instantly. Everyone's expression became grave. Standardized mecha were the core combat power of the Remnant Council. Having 3 mecha destroyed was something that hadn't happened in nearly 10 years. "We cannot let them approach the fortress," Chairman Chen Xuan finally spoke. Commander Chu Ling immediately mobilized the 2nd and 3rd mecha squads. "Once they enter the security zone, kill them on sight. Bring back all the crystals." "Yes, Chairman." Commander Chu Ling immediately stood at attention and responded. "All right, that concludes the first agenda item." Chairman Chen Xuan waved his hand. "Now for the second, and even more important matter." Just as he finished speaking, a technician in a white coat stepped forward and pulled up a red regional image. "Chairman, fellow councilors." The technician's voice carried a hint of imperceptible trembling. "According to our satellite monitoring data, 3 days ago, the activity frequency of out-of-control mechanical entities in the southern region increased by a full 30 times. A large number of dormant mechanical entities are awakening on a massive scale." He pointed at the flashing red dots on the image. "According to model projections, a new round of mechanical tide will erupt in the south in a month at most, and the scale this time might be even stronger than the last one." These words were like a heavy bomb exploding in the conference room. Everyone's faces turned pale instantly. They had all lived through the mechanical tide 50 years ago and knew exactly what kind of devastating disaster it was. "How could it be so sudden?" the tall, thin counselor blurted out. "It's been less than 50 years since the last mechanical tide. How could it appear so suddenly?" "We don't know the reason either. But since these outsiders appeared, the revival of the mechanical entities has clearly accelerated." The technician shook his head. Chairman Chen Xuan's face was so gloomy it looked like it could drip water. He was silent for a long time before slowly speaking. Commander Chu Ling. Present. Immediately activate the highest level combat readiness plan. Chairman Chen Xuan said word by word. Order all armories to produce around the clock to speed up the mass production of standardized mecha. At the same time, form the 3rd Frontline Legion and deploy them all to the southern border to establish a defensive line and investigate the specific timing and scale of the mechanical tide. Yes, Chairman. I guarantee the mission will be completed. Commander Chu Ling responded loudly, then hesitated for a moment before adding, Chairman, how should we deal with the outsiders? Chapter 296. Firefight once again. Chairman Chen Xuan was silent for a moment before finally speaking slowly. Ignore those people for now. Commander Chu Ling snapped her head up, her face full of confusion. Chairman, is it possible that the mechanical tide was caused by these outsiders? They number in the tens of thousands. The mechanical tide is the most important thing right now. A flicker of memory crossed Chairman Chen Xuan's eyes, followed by a flash of disdain. Once the mechanical tide is dealt with, those outsiders won't be worth mentioning. Yes, Chairman. Although Commander Chu Ling felt something was amiss, she immediately complied. There is one more thing. A tall, thin counselor suddenly spoke up, his expression grave. The group from the Tianyan sect has been restless lately. We've monitored a large number of their personnel active along the southern border. Could the sudden appearance of these outsiders be related to the Tianyan sect? At the mention of the Tianyan sect, the atmosphere in the meeting room instantly became oppressive. Chairman Chen Xuan's brow furrowed slightly, but then he let out a disdainful sneer. The Tianyan sect? Just a bunch of lunatics who believe in physical strength. A pack of rats that can't be shown in public. They won't be able to stir up any major trouble. Exactly, Counselor Zhao chimed in. In this era, physical strength can never override machinery. No matter how much they struggle, they are no match for our mecha units. Ignore them. Let's solve the problem of the mechanical tide first. The other counselors nodded in succession, expressing their agreement. Meeting adjourned. Chairman Chen Xuan waved his hand and stood up, leading the way out of the meeting room. The other counselors also rose and walked out with solemn expressions. On the wasteland, the night was as black as ink. At 8:08 p.m., the RV continued to speed steadily through the darkness. The cabin was lit with soft lights. Lin Yu and Shu Kexin were squeezed into the passenger seat, their heads huddled together. Lin Shi and Su Wanwan sat on the sofa in the back. Wu Di sat in the driver's seat, his eyes fixed on the map on the center console screen. They were less than 200 kilometers away from the frozen fortress. The closer they got, the stronger the unease in his heart became. Just then, Xiaoxi's voice suddenly rang out. Commander, radar has detected flying mechas approaching from the flank, quantity 10. Estimated contact in 10 seconds. The Ludun 1130 close-in weapon system has been activated for counterattack. Before her voice had even faded, the hum of the close-in weapon system rotating came from the roof. Lin Shi and Su Wanwan, who were originally in the back, stood up instantly and rushed to the front. Da-da-da-da-da-da! The deafening sound of cannon fire instantly filled the cabin. A dense barrage of shells poured into the darkness ahead like a torrent of steel. Orange tongues of fire flickered continuously in the night sky, illuminating the surrounding pitch-black wasteland. However, after barely 3 seconds, the gunfire stopped abruptly. Commander, the Ludun 1130 close-in weapon system's ammunition has been completely depleted. 5 targets destroyed. The remaining 5 mechas are 300 meters away and approaching rapidly. Xiaoxi's voice rang out immediately. Wu Di's eyes sharpened as he stood up and said loudly, Xiaoxi, open the door. Received, Commander. The door has been opened. Without another word, Wu Di leaped directly from the speeding RV. The moment his body left the cabin, the Titan's Wrath mecha instantly covered his entire body. Boom! Wu Di's feet slammed onto the ground, his immense strength stomping 2 deep craters into the hard soil. Like a cannonball fired from a barrel, he charged rapidly toward the 5 incoming mechas. In the night sky, 5 silver-gray figures were diving toward the RV. Seeing the 3-meter-tall mecha that had suddenly charged out, The 5 mechas clearly faltered for a moment before immediately adjusting their stance and raising their arms simultaneously. In the next second, 5 pale blue energy beams shot toward Wu Di at the same time. Wu Di dodged to the side, easily evading all the attacks. The energy beams hit the ground behind him, blasting 5 huge craters. "Xiao Shi, can you detect what this energy attack is?" Wu Di's voice echoed inside the mecha. "Commander, insufficient data. Unable to analyze." After speaking, Wu Di accelerated sharply, instantly closing the distance with the leading mecha. He clenched his right fist and smashed it hard into the mecha's chest. Crack! A piercing sound of metal snapping rang out. That silver-gray standardized mecha flew backward like a kite with a broken string, crashing heavily onto the ground and never moving again. The chest armor was completely caved in and deformed, with internal parts scattered everywhere. After dealing with the first one, Wu Di didn't stop for a second, turning to pounce on the second. Although these standardized mechas had decent mobility, they looked like they were moving in slow motion in front of Titan's wrath. Wu Di's movements were as fast as lightning, giving the opponents no chance to react. In less than 3 minutes, 2 more standardized mechas were completely destroyed by him, turning into 3 heaps of scrap metal on the ground. Seeing this, the remaining 2 mechas immediately turned around and flew toward the frozen fortress to the north. Wu Di stood where he was, watching the 3 silver-gray figures growing more distant. The flight capability of his current Titan's Wrath mecha had not yet been unlocked. He could only fight on the ground and couldn't possibly catch up to the high-speed flying standardized mechas. He could only watch as they escaped. "Commander, the remaining 2 mechas have escaped radar detection range," Xiao Shi's voice rang out. Wu Di slowly lowered his fist and deactivated the Titan's Wrath armor. Not long after, the RV slowly pulled up beside him. The door opened, and Shu Kexin was the first to jump down, running to his side with an excited expression. "Boss! You said before you'd give us each a set of mecha. When are we getting them? That was so cool!" "Yeah, big brother Wu Di." Lin Yu also ran down, hugging Wu Di's arm with eyes full of anticipation. "I really want to try it too." Su Wanwan and Lin Shi also stepped out, looking at the mecha wreckage on the ground with curiosity. "Don't worry about that for now. Collect all the mecha fragments. Don't leave a single piece behind," Wu Di instructed. "Got it." The group immediately sprang into action, and soon the scene was cleaned up. Everyone returned to the RV, and the door slowly closed, sealing out the cold wind. "So these mechas are only worth this much," Shu Kexin said, holding a piece of mecha fragment. "Boss, if you prepare one of those for each of us, we'll just go and flatten the Remnant Council." The mobility of these mechas is very strong. Wu Di sat in the driver's seat, his brow slightly furrowed. And this might not be the full strength of the Remnant Council. "But 3 of them escaped," Lin Shi said worriedly. "What do we do next? Will more mechas come to hunt us down?" "It doesn't matter." Wu Di shook his head, his gaze firm. A conflict was bound to break out sooner or later. Wu Di's eyes landed on the time on the center console screen, calculating silently in his heart. In another 3 hours. At that time, he would see whose mecha unit was truly superior. At the thought, a smile involuntarily tugged at the corner of his mouth. Chapter 297, Source Realm Crystal Core. The RV continued to speed northward, the wilderness outside the window gradually covered by a thin layer of white frost. After driving another 200 kilometers, when the center console screen showed less than 100 kilometers remaining to the frozen fortress, Wu Di suddenly spoke. "Xiao Shi, find a hidden place to stop." "Understood, Commander." As the RV slowly came to a halt, a few people gathered around. "Shu Kexin, what's wrong, boss? We're almost there, why stop suddenly? Aren't we going over?" "Now is not the time." Wu Di looked at the dark night outside the window and said, "Since the Remnant Council can track us, they must have known we were heading this way for a long time. Instead of rushing over now, it's better to stop first and wait for the right moment before going in." "But won't we be caught up by the people behind if we stop?" Lin Shi looked at Wu Di with concern and said, We don't know if those players and the natives are still behind us. Wu Di shook his head. Haven't you noticed? The further north we go, the fewer players there are. That's true, big brother Wu Di. It seems like we haven't seen any players for a long time. Lin Yue also realized this. Boss, you aren't scared, are you? If you can't do it, give me that mech of yours to wear. If you can't, I'll take the initiative. Zhu Kexin looked at Wu Di with suspicion. Wu Di reached out and patted Zhu Kexin's head. Stop messing around, everyone rest well, there might be action tonight. As soon as Wu Di finished speaking, Lin Yu and Zhu Kexin both said loudly, Really? Then Lin Yu immediately urged, Sister Wan Wan, you guys hurry and rest. Zhu Kexin also chimed in. That's right, Wan Wan, Jixi, you guys hurry and sleep. Tonight we're going to raid the Remnant Council. I can't be left behind this time. Wu Di looked at their excited appearance, sighed, and then said to Su Wan Wan and Lin Shi, There's nothing else to do now, you guys go rest too. Lin Shi and Su Wan Wan looked at each other, and Lin Shi said, Then we'll just lie on the sofa, big brother Wu Di. Call us directly if anything happens. Su Wan Wan nodded, and then the two of them went back to the sofa and lay down. The carriage gradually quieted down. Lin Shi and Su Wan Wan were resting on the sofa, while Zhu Kexin and Lin Yue squeezed into the passenger seat. Only Wu Di sat in the driver's seat, without a shred of sleepiness. His eyes swept across the time on the screen from time to time. The closer it got to midnight, the brighter the light in his eyes became, and an unhidden excitement surged in his gaze. He had been waiting for this moment. This was also the reason why he didn't continue deeper immediately. Time ticked by, and the numbers on the screen finally jumped to 23:59. Wu Di took a deep breath, suppressed the excitement in his heart, turned his head to look at Lin Yu, who was already drowsy and about to fall asleep in the passenger seat, and called her softly, Lin Yu? Lin Yu gave a start, instantly sprang up from her seat, looked around, and immediately looked at Wu Di with anticipation. Ah? What's wrong, big brother Wu Di? Is it time to start the operation? I'll go call Sister and Sister Wan Wan. Seeing her flustered appearance, Wu Di couldn't help but smile and shook his head gently. No one is attacking us. Don't call them, give me talent amplification. Lin Yu was stunned for a moment, blinked her eyes, and it took 2 seconds for her to react, her eyes instantly lighting up. Oh, okay. No problem, big brother Wu Di. Watching Lin Yu finish casting talent amplification, Wu Di directly activated his talent. Ding. Do you choose Qianyuan Mother Crystal, orange, as the main sacrifice, and Qianyuan Crystal, gold, ×3 as secondary sacrifices? Ding. Talent activation successful. Item upgraded to Tier 3. Obtained Source Realm Crystal Core Law Quality. The moment he saw the 4 words, Law Quality, Wu Di's heart skipped a beat and blood rushed to his head instantly. He clenched his fists, his knuckles turning slightly white from the force. Before this, he had always wondered if there would be other levels after Eternal Grade. When he obtained the Qianyuan Mother Crystal before, he had thought about the possibility of a Tier 3 upgrade, and at that time he wondered what levels came after. Now it seemed that after Eternal Grade came Law Quality. Wu Di subconsciously thought of other players. A strange emotion arose in his heart, let alone items of Law Quality. Among the tens of thousands of players on the entire wasteland, those who possessed gold quality items could be counted on one hand. Most people might not have even seen an orange quality item, and he now possessed a Law Quality item that surpassed Eternal Grade. There was a gap of 4 whole levels between them. He had a feeling that from this moment on, a gap that could never be crossed had opened up between him and all other players. Subsequently, he suppressed the excitement in his heart, focused his spirit, and began to check the attributes of this newly obtained item. Source Realm Crystal Core, Law Quality. Born in the cracks of dimensions, an energy aggregate naturally condensed from pure origin energy. The interior of the crystal core forms an eternal energy closed loop, which can self-derive, cycle repeatedly, and never decay. Effect 1. Condenses a constant and pure origin energy field, turning into an incredibly stable spatial anchor point, which can stabilize turbulent airspaces and resist dimensional turbulence. Effect 2. Capable of freely releasing the origin power inside, capable of destroying everything in an instant. Effect 3. Can replace fuel as the core energy source for vehicles. Note: born in the cracks of dimensions that no world can reach, it is not bound by any laws. It is both the doomsday judgment that can end everything and the light of creation that can nurture new life. After reading the attribute panel, Wu-Di was completely stunned. The attributes of this item, which surpassed the eternal grade, were too different from what he had imagined, making him even feel that its paper attributes were not as good as the eternal grade items he already had in his hands. He stared at the last sentence of the note: doomsday judgment that can end everything, light of creation that can nurture new life, his brows furrowing tighter and tighter. Could it be that this law-grade item had a large number of hidden attributes that weren't written down? Wu-Di recalled all the special items he had obtained before. The vague descriptions in the notes often corresponded to abilities that weren't explicitly stated. But immediately after, Wu-Di fell into deep entanglement. He had originally planned to install the Qianyuan Mother Crystal on Unit 01 after strengthening it. But now, looking at the attributes of the Source Realm Crystal Core, he hesitated. If he installed the Crystal Core on the RV, not only would the energy be infinite, but more importantly, as an eternal-grade AI, Xiaoxi had always been limited by the RV's energy output and could not exert her full capabilities. With the infinite energy support of the Source Realm Crystal Core, all of Xiaoxi's abilities would undergo a qualitative leap, especially one of her core abilities, the ability to instantly invade and overwrite the underlying logic of all intelligent machinery within detection range. Chapter 298, Unit 01 Startup. By then, let alone the Remnant Council's standardized mecha, even if they had higher-level mecha, they would only be instantly controlled by Xiaoxi and turned into delivered spoils of war. As for those out-of-control mechanical bodies on the wasteland, they were even less worth mentioning. Now this difficult choice lay before him. Should he use the Origin World Crystal Core on Unit 01 or on the RV? Wu-Di was silent for a full 5 minutes. Ultimately, he slowly clenched his fist and made a decision. As an eternal quality mecha, Unit 01 had been gathering dust in the domain space ever since it was synthesized, never truly displaying its power. Meanwhile, the RV still had a 55% energy reserve, which was perfectly sufficient for normal use. What truly made him decide was the radar's detection range. Currently, the RV's radar limit was only 1,000 meters. Even if Xiaoxi were given infinite energy, her mechanical intrusion ability could only cover this 1-kilometer range, making it impossible to truly leverage her advantage. Instead of that, it would be better to fully unleash Unit 01's capabilities first. Having made his decision, Wu-Di turned to look to the side. Lin Yu had long lost any sleepiness and was watching him curiously with her large eyes. Seeing him look over, she immediately blinked. "I have something to handle in the domain space. Call me immediately if anything happens," Wu-Di said in a low voice. Having said that, without waiting for Lin Yu's reaction, he stood up and strode directly into the entrance of the domain space. Entering the interior of the domain space, his first glance went to the world tree in the center. After 2 days away, the originally 5-meter-tall world tree showed no obvious changes, but the surrounding scenery had undergone a world-shaking transformation. Originally, except for the vegetable plot Lin Shi and the others had cleared, the land was all hard, grayish-brown soil. Now, it was covered with a layer of tender green grass extending all the way to the edge of the space, and the air was filled with a faint, fresh scent of vegetation. Wu-Di raised his eyebrows in surprise. He hadn't expected the world tree to drive ecological changes across the entire domain space. However, now was not the time to study this, as they could be attacked by the Remnant Council at any moment outside. He withdrew his gaze and walked straight toward the massive figure standing silently in the corner of the space. Unit 01 was entirely pitch black, like a slumbering behemoth, standing there quietly and exuding a cold, majestic aura, Wu Di took the Origin World crystal core from his personal space. A pure white crystal core appeared in his palm, emitting a soft and pure halo, as if it were drawing all the light in the space toward it. "Is this a law-level item?" Wu Di whispered to himself, his fingertips lightly brushing the smooth surface of the crystal core. However, at that moment, something unexpected happened. He subconsciously turned toward the world tree in the center, only to see the originally motionless branches swaying gently. There was no wind, yet it seemed as if an invisible hand were plucking them. An extremely faint yet incredibly clear sensation transmitted from the direction of the world tree into his heart. It was a pure longing, direct and earnest, like a hungry child seeing food. Wu Di's heart stirred, and he subconsciously walked toward the world tree. Beneath the tree, the resting area Lin Shi and the others had previously laid out with clothes was still there. He walked to the trunk, reached out to gently touch the rough bark, and asked softly, "Do you want this too?" As soon as he spoke, an even clearer sense of attachment came through, like a kitten rubbing against his palm, carrying a hint of coyness. There were no words, only the purest telepathy. Wu Di was stunned. He hadn't expected it to truly have its own thoughts and such a deep attachment to him. "So, do you really have a consciousness?" he asked again. But this time there was no response. It was as if, after transmitting that longing just now, the world tree had exhausted all its strength and fallen back into silence. Wu Di looked at the large tree before him, which exuded a sense of familiarity, and lightly patted its trunk. "Don't be in a hurry, I still have a use for this crystal right now. Once I find a better one later, I'll definitely give it to you first." Miraculously, as soon as he spoke, the swaying branches slowly grew quiet, returning to their previous state. Wu Di smiled, turned, and walked back to Unit 01. He looked up at the 12-meter-tall black mecha before him, then at the Origin World crystal core in his hand, and muttered in confusion. "So, how am I supposed to install this for you?" The next second, Unit 01's originally pitch-black eyes suddenly lit up with a crimson glow, and a low, mechanical voice echoed in the space. "Master, you only need to place the energy core in my palm." Along with the voice, Unit 01 slowly crouched its massive body and extended a metal palm as huge as a small mountain, palm upward, waiting quietly. Wu Di did not hesitate, and placed the Origin World crystal core in Unit 01's palm. Unit 01 slowly closed its hand, clutching the crystal core tightly. There was no complex installation process, nor any dazzling light. It simply stood there quietly. "Master, the energy core has been successfully fused. Internal energy is fully replenished. All systems are unlocked to 100%, and I am awaiting your orders at any time." "It's installed just like that." Wu Di was somewhat surprised. "How did you do it?" "Master, through spatial abilities, I directly transferred the energy core to the internal power bay. No physical connection was required." Wu Di nodded, no longer dwelling on these technical details. Looking at the fully awakened eternal quality mecha before him, he asked the question he cared about most. Specifically, what needs to be done to produce heavy hammer black-armored warriors? "Master, you only need to provide me with sufficient metal raw materials and energy bodies, and I can mass-produce heavy hammer black-armored warriors." Wu Di's eyes lit up, and he immediately pointed to the mountain-like pile of mecha fragments and mechanical remains not far away. These were all the spoils of war they had collected along the way, weighing a full several dozen tons. "Are these metal materials enough?" Unit 01 turned to look at the pile of fragments, the red light in its eyes flickering slightly. The next second, an invisible suction emanated from its body, and all the metal fragments on the ground soared into the air, surging into Unit 01 like a tide and vanishing the moment they collided. A few seconds later, all the fragments had disappeared without a trace. "Master, metal raw materials are sufficient. Currently, the energy bodies required for production are missing." Wu Di immediately took out 10 gold-quality Qianyuan crystals from his personal space. "Will these work?" Unit 01 reached out and absorbed all 10 Qianyuan crystals. Energy bodies confirmed. Current materials can produce 2 heavy hammer black armored warriors. Estimated production time, 2 hours. 1 hour to produce 1? Yes, Master. The production process will proceed automatically, and a notification will be sent to you upon completion. Chapter 299, Unit 01 debuts. Wu Di nodded with satisfaction. He walked to the world tree, sat on the ground covered with clothes, leaned against the thick trunk, and let out a long sigh of relief. The fragrance of grass and the gentle aura emitted by the world tree enveloped him, finally allowing his nerves, which had been tense for days, to relax. He closed his eyes, but in his mind he kept imagining what the heavy hammer black-armored warrior would look like. Just how strong would a combat unit produced by an eternal-grade mecha be? Time ticked away. Before he knew it, an hour had passed. Master, the first heavy hammer black-armored warrior has been produced. The cold, mechanical voice of Unit 01 suddenly rang out, breaking the silence of the domain space. Wu Di opened his eyes abruptly, stood up, and walked quickly to Unit 01. Release it and let me see. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly realized, how big is the heavy hammer black-armored warrior? Master, the standard heavy hammer black-armored warrior is 5 meters tall, with a standard combat weight of 28 tons. Wu Di was completely dumbfounded. Looking at the 12-meter-tall Unit 01 in front of him, then at the narrow entrance of the domain space, he said helplessly, It won't be able to get out. I can't just dismantle the RV, can I? Master, I can perform a spatial jump through the entrance of the domain space. No physical passage is required. The voice of Unit 01 remained devoid of any inflection. Wu Di was stunned for a moment. Then a look of surprise and joy appeared on his face. Can you come back? Wu Di asked quickly. Yes, Master. As long as there are spatial coordinates, I can travel back and forth between the domain space and any location. That's great, Wu Di said excitedly. Then you go out first and wait for me outside the RV. Understood, Master. As the words fell, the massive body of Unit 01 slowly levitated without making a sound. It flew steadily to the entrance of the domain space, and then the entire mecha distorted like water ripples before vanishing into thin air, leaving no trace behind. Wu Di did not dare to delay, immediately turning and running out of the domain space. Inside the carriage, Lin Yu was sitting in the passenger seat. Seeing Wu Di suddenly run out, she was about to ask what happened when she saw him yank open the car door and rush out. Lin Yu quickly jumped out after him. The cold night wind instantly hit his face, carrying fine snowflakes that stung his skin. Wu Di looked up and saw the 12-meter-tall black Unit 01 standing quietly on the open ground next to the RV, exuding a suffocating sense of oppression. Wow! Lin Yu ran out behind him. The moment she saw Unit 01, she couldn't help but exclaim, Big Brother Wu Di, how did it get out? Wu Di didn't answer. He looked up at Unit 01 and said, Release the heavy hammer black-armored warrior. Understood, Master. The space in front of Unit 01 fluctuated slightly. A black light flashed, and a 5-meter-tall mecha appeared out of thin air on the open ground. This mecha was pitch black, with sharp, rugged lines almost identical to the design of Unit 01, as if it were a perfect scaled-down version. Wow! This smaller one is so cool, too! Lin Yu's eyes lit up instantly, and she leaned in to examine it closely. Big Brother Wu Di, is this mecha prepared for us? Can I wear this? Wu Di shook his head with a smile. This isn't for you to wear. This is an unmanned combat mecha. As he spoke, he reached out and gently placed his hand on the cold armor of the heavy hammer black-armored warrior. The next second, the detailed attribute panel of the heavy hammer black-armored warrior appeared in his mind. Heavy hammer black-armored warrior, orange quality. Basic parameters, height 5 meters, standard combat weight 28 tons, standard humanoid main battle mecha configuration. Mobility, maximum flight speed 900 kilometers per hour, maximum flight altitude 15,000 meters, all-terrain and all-scenario adaptation. Defense system, entire body covered in high-order biometal forged composite black armor, perfectly inheriting the basic self-healing characteristics of Unit 01, capable of repairing conventional combat damage at low speed, can effectively resist conventional thermal weapon strikes, high-intensity physical impacts, and low-level energy attacks. Energy system uses gold-quality Qianyuan crystal as the core power source. 72 hours of continuous operation at full load supports energy module replacement, capable of passive energy replenishment by relying on trace energy in the environment. Weapon system, melee, standard heavy armor-piercing warblade, possessing both heavy crushing and high-order armor-piercing cutting characteristics, can easily tear through the armor of same-level mecha and break through various defensive fortifications. Ranged, built-in multi-barreled energy shooting modules in the shoulders and arms, capable of achieving precise strikes at medium to short ranges and large-scale fire coverage, inflicting efficient damage on solid armor, energy shields, and cluster targets. Holy crap. Wu Di couldn't help but curse. He never imagined that the combat unit produced by Unit 01 would actually be orange quality. And looking at these attributes, it simply couldn't be compared to ordinary orange quality equipment. The maximum flight speed of 900 kilometers per hour alone was faster than the standardized mecha of the Remnant Council by who knows how much. Not to mention the self-healing ability and energy weapons. Up until now, he had never seen any weapon capable of firing energy attacks. The blue energy beams used by the Remnant Council's mecha before had already surprised him enough. He just didn't know how the energy weapons of the heavy hammer black-armored warrior compared to the Remnant Council's mecha. Lin Yu, who was beside him, leaned over to check the attributes, her expression even more exaggerated than Wu Di's, her mouth open wide enough to fit an egg. Wu Di took a deep breath, suppressed the excitement in his heart, looked up at Unit 01, and suddenly said, "From now on, you shall be called Zero." Naming successful. From now on, I am Zero. The mechanical voice of Unit 01 rang out, seemingly without any emotional fluctuation. Zero are the attributes of all heavy hammer black-armored warriors the same as this one? Wu Di asked. Master, the basic attributes of the heavy hammer black-armored warrior are fixed, but there will be slight attribute fluctuations, depending on the quality of the metal materials and energy bodies used during production. The higher the quality of the materials, the stronger the performance of the produced heavy hammer black-armored warrior. Then can those abandoned cars and mechanical wrecks on the side of the road also be used for production? Lin Yu asked quickly. Yes. Any substance containing metal components can be decomposed and reorganized at the nano level to be converted into the raw materials needed for production. It's just that the conversion efficiency of low-quality metals is relatively low. Wu Di's eyes lit up. The wasteland was not short of various abandoned metal wrecks. If these could all be used to produce heavy hammer black-armored warriors, then their mecha legion would soon be able to take shape. He was just about to tell Zero to go collect materials when he suddenly thought of a key question. Zero, how far can you be from me to carry out tasks? Also, what is the communication distance between you and the heavy hammer black-armored warriors? Chapter 300, Next Target. Master, I can execute any task independently without distance restrictions. But direct communication between you and me requires reliance on corresponding communication equipment. As for the communication between the heavy hammer black-armored warriors and me, it uses quantum entanglement, which has no distance limit. As long as we are within the same space, I can maintain connection and command at any time. Perfect. Wu Di couldn't help but clench his fists. Although he currently didn't have equipment to communicate directly with Zero, this was not a problem at all. The heavy hammer black-armored warriors were unmanned combat units themselves. As long as Zero could command them at any time, it was equivalent to him possessing a mecha legion that could be deployed remotely and operate autonomously. Even if he were thousands of miles away, he could control the actions of all heavy hammer black-armored warriors through Zero. Wu Di immediately took out 90 gold-quality Qianyuan crystals from his personal space. He raised his hand and handed the crystals to Zero. Zero, go to the surrounding area immediately. Collect all available metal materials, and produce heavy hammer black armored warriors at full capacity. Remember, once you discover any abnormal movement, safety comes first. Received, Master. Energy bodies received. Task execution started. Zero extended its massive metal palm and gently inhaled, causing all 90 Qianyuan crystals to float up and merge into its palm. Subsequently, the space in front of it fluctuated slightly again, and the heavy hammer black-armored warrior standing silently on the ground seemed to be pulled by an invisible force, slowly disappearing into thin air. The next second, Zero's 12-meter-tall massive body twisted like water ripples again, and without making a sound, it vanished into the pitch-black night. It was as if that eternal-grade mecha, which had been exuding a terrifying sense of oppression just a moment ago, had never appeared at all. Only Wu Dai and Lin Yu remained on the spot, along with two massive footprints, half a meter deep, that Zero had stepped into the snow, which were exceptionally clear under the moonlight. Lin Yu stared blankly at the place where Zero had disappeared, her mouth agape for a long time, before she suddenly grabbed Wu Di's arm and asked excitedly, "Big brother Wu Di, is this space teleportation? Are we really going to have our own Mecha Legion? Doesn't that mean we are invincible?" Let's go. Let's talk back in the RV. Wu Di patted Lin Yu's shoulder, his tone also much more relaxed. The two turned and returned to the RV, the heavy door slowly closing, isolating the howling cold wind and biting chill outside. Inside the carriage, Zhu Kexin, Su Wanwan, and Lin Shi were all already awake, sitting on the sofa, looking at them with confusion. "Boss, what did you and little Yu go out to do? We were just preparing to go out and take a look." "Were you that fast?" Zhu Kexin looked suspiciously at Lin Yu and Wu Di, whose faces were flushed with excitement. "It's incredible. Sister Shu, Sister Wanwan." Lin Yu didn't care about the meaning behind Zhu Kexin's words and immediately pounced over, grabbing the three of them by their arms and began to describe everything she had just seen while dancing with excitement. "Just now, Unit 01. Oh no, wait, it's called Zero now. It can actually perform space jumps. It jumped directly out of the domain space." Then it released a 5-meter-tall small mecha, which was actually an orange-quality unmanned combat mecha. "Boss has already let Zero go to collect materials for mass production. We are about to have our own Mecha Legion." Lin Yu spoke very fast, pouring everything out in one breath, her face filled with unconcealable excitement. "Phew, that's good. I thought you guys went out to do something bad." After listening, Zhu Kexin let out a long sigh of relief. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly raised her voice and exclaimed in astonishment, "What? Orange-quality mecha?" Su Wanwan also covered her small mouth in surprise, turned her head to look at Wu Di. "Big brother Wu Di, has the energy problem for Unit 01 been completely solved?" Lin Shi remained silent, but her eyes were fixed on Wu Di, filled with anticipation. Wu Di nodded gently. "The first batch of heavy hammer black-armored warriors will soon be mass-produced and formed." Zhu Kexin immediately leaned forward, affectionately hugging Wu Di's arm, and asked with anticipation in her eyes, "Boss, does this kind of mecha have a manned version? Can you arrange one for each of us? Next time at night, I'll accompany you to do something interesting." After speaking, she even winked at Wu Di, giving him an ambiguous look. Wu Di helplessly raised his hand and tapped her forehead lightly. "Didn't you hear clearly? This is an unmanned mecha. Stop with the wild thoughts and stay put." "Oh, so it's an unmanned mecha." Zhu Kexin instantly wilted and muttered in a low voice, "Then when will my mecha dream ever be realized?" Seeing her disappointed look, Lin Shi and Su Wanwan couldn't help but chuckle. At this time, Lin Yue stepped forward quickly and pulled Zhu Kexin onto the sofa. "Sister Shu, let me tell you, just now." Wu Di watched the few of them playing around, smiled faintly, and then walked to the driver's seat to sit down, silently taking stock of the current material reserves and overall combat power in his heart. In terms of combat power, Zero had fully awakened and unlocked the ability to mass-produce heavy hammer, black-armored warriors. Judging from the attributes of the first heavy hammer, black-armored warrior, its combat power far exceeded that of the Remnant Council's standardized mecha, and it was unmanned combat, so there was no need to worry about casualties. As long as there were enough energy and materials, the scale of this Mecha Legion could be expanded infinitely. Coupled with his Titans, Wrath Mecha, for now, safety shouldn't be a problem as long as there wasn't anything too hardcore in this world. In terms of energy, the most critical thing was the Chanyuan crystal. Previously, a total of 110 gold-quality Chanyuan crystals had been harvested. Previously, 3 were used as secondary offerings to promote the Chanyuan Mother Crystal to an Origin World Crystal Core. Just now, 100% were given to Zero for mass-producing heavy hammer black-armored warriors, and now only 7 gold-quality Chanyuan crystals remained in his personal space. Wu Di touched his chin and calculated secretly. After Zero finished producing the first batch of heavy hammer black-armored warriors with these gold-quality Chanyuan crystals, he would try using purple-quality Chanyuan crystals as the energy source to see how much difference there would be in the combat power of the produced heavy hammer black-armored warriors. I forgot to ask just now. It wouldn't be that 10 Chanyuan crystals can only produce 2 mechas, right? Wu Di slapped his forehead suddenly. Forget it, it won't be too late to ask later. Afterwards, he thought of Zero and the heavy hammer black-armored warriors just now. A sense of emotion arose in Wu Di's heart. This was the first time he had truly realized the power of an eternal grade item. Before, whether it was the Titan's Wrath Mecha or the eternal grade I Shao Shi, they hadn't been able to fully exert their intended power due to various limitations. Wu Di looked at the pitch-black night outside the window, his thoughts churning in his mind. Was it because of the difference between the items? Or was it because Zero now possessed the current strength, because it was loaded with the law-level Origin World Crystal Core? If it was because of the Origin World Crystal Core, the Remnant Council must surely possess Chanyuan crystals. Since that was the case, there couldn't possibly be only one Chanyuan Mother Crystal. Thinking of this, Wu Di looked at the map on the center console screen, his eyes burning with intense heat.